equivalents then that don't need satellites to function. They may not be as good as satellite services, but they will do in a crisis.
The exact method of attack on satellites may be difficult to predict, but signs they're under threat probably won't be.
A lot of space warfare activities are about as subtle as a brick, so depending on the physical side, it won't necessarily be a surprise. And tracking systems are there and are always improving to monitor these systems. So space is not a political vacuum. And if there is going to be warfare in space, it'll probably just be an overspill or just a continuation of warfare or a crisis on the planet, which will be much more important than exactly what happens to what satellites, because we're probably looking at people dying on the planet, which is, of course, far more important. So I would not want anyone to lose any more sleep than they weren't already having due to the state of the world. So if you're already concerned about geopolitics and the numerous wars that are going on Earth right now, there's nothing particularly pressing in addition you need to worry about space.
So how much of a threat is satellite warfare? Any natural or engineered object in space is potentially dangerous, but the intention has always been not to weaponize the ones launched from Earth. There are nearly 12,000 active satellites in orbit. Technology is blurring the line between military and commercial satellite capabilities. Countries are test-destroying their own satellites to prove they can do it. So there's more scope to raise that threat level. But space warfare comes with added risks, like debris that can knock out the satellites of the aggressor or their allies. So it's possible any response to an orbital attack would take place on Earth. What happens in space might not stay in space. This edition of The Inquiry was presented by me, Charmaine Cozier. The producer was Vicky Farncombe, researcher Maeve Schaffer, editor Tara McDermott, and technical producer Nikki Edwards.
That was The Inquiry from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho here on CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. We are live this morning out in your community with CBC's Information Radio, your morning show, on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. Now, if you're watching, you can see we're not in our regular CBC studio on Portage Avenue. We are, in fact, on one of the oldest streets in this city. We are on Selkirk Avenue this morning, 541. We're at Selkirk and Andrew Street, and Merchants Corner is here. And if you don't know all about it, you will by the end of the morning. This is a community hub, and already this morning you can feel the community vibe here. That is lovely. There's folks putting on a breakfast here, and who will be eating? Well, probably a lot of folks that come from the surrounding community, but also the students that go to school here. This is a place where the University of Winnipeg has a satellite location. Also, this is a place where Community Education Development Association works out of, and this space replaced the old Merchants Hotel years ago. They opened officially in 2018, and they want to invite the community in. We're going to hear stories from the students and the people that care about the Merchants this morning. So really happy to be here. Big thanks to everyone who's here. Jordan, Elaine, Jonah, Carl, Lisa, Tracy, Geraldine, Sapa, Shauna, and Hannah, all busy getting ready to share stories and breakfast with us here. So 2 minutes to 6 o'clock to your morning here. We are on Wednesday morning, September the 10th, and it's going to be a really hot day with possible showers in Winnipeg this afternoon. Corey Funk on location here with us. Good morning, Corey. Also, good morning to Abby Adeyemi and Brad Lillies, who were up very early to make it possible for us to be out and about. So we'll hear Abby on the air as well, covering what's going on in your commute, which right now looks good. With headlines, before we get to national and international news, here now is Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, questions are being raised about a plan to limit locations of homeless encampments in Winnipeg. James Thompson lives in an encampment in Fort Douglas Park and worries new rules will force people like him to be constantly relocating. And Manitoba's Nepalese community is banding together as violent unrest has upended that country's government. Your next local news coming up at 6:30.
Thank you, Heather. Well, in our first hour of the program here, when the community literally took sledgehammers to the inside of the Merchants Hotel, what used to be here on Selkirk, this place was born. So we're going to hear more about the meaning in the neighborhood and also what's needed in the wider area to continue their work here. So that's just one of the stories we'll share. But stay with us, because first it's time for World Report at 6.
Today on Q.
I'm Talia Schlenger in for Tom Power. Susan Agluka was the first Inuk artist to have a top 10 hit in Canada, but she never set out to be a famous pop musician. She'll share stories about her unconventional path from her new memoir.
Q. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Israel's allies are criticizing Tuesday's strike on Hamas in Qatar. The European Commission is planning on freezing EU support. President Ursula von der Leyen also says she is seeking sanctions and a partial trade suspension against Israel. Even U.S. President Donald Trump is saying the strike was not a good idea. The CBC's Willie Lowry is in Washington with more on the U.S. response. Willie, what are U.S. officials saying?
Well, President Donald Trump not happy with Israel's strike on Hamas inside Qatar, a key U.S. ally in the Middle East.
I'm not thrilled about the whole situation. It's not a good situation.
And Trump said Tuesday night that he would issue a full statement later today. The president, though, not alone in his criticism. Several U.S. leaders, including Senator Bernie Sanders, also irate. Sanders on social media calling for an end to U.S. military aid to Israel. Others, however, a little more supportive of Israel's actions. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham said he spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu shortly after the strike and added he would always be a partner to Israel.
What has the White House said about the U.S. involvement in the strike?
Well, that's the question, and messaging out of the White House, at least so far, suggesting not very much. Trump on social media said his team learned of the strike from the U.S. military. The president also saying he immediately went into action, directing U.S. Special Envoy for the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, to reach out to the Qataris. The Qataris saying by the time the Trump administration made contact, the strike already underway. Trump made clear, though, that this was Israel's strike. And while he said he felt very badly about the location of it, he added that the target, allegedly Hamas leadership, was a worthy goal.
Thank you, Willie.
Thank you.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. Poland says it has shot down Russian drones that entered its airspace overnight. Officials say it happened during a Russian attack on Ukraine. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk is calling the incursion a large-scale provocation.
Mamy do czynienia najprawdopodobniej z prowokacją na dużą skalę.
Tusk says he is in constant contact with NATO Secretary General, and Poland is invoking Article 4. It will request a formal consultation with the alliance. Article 4 has not been invoked since 1949. It has only been used 7 times. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is condemning the attacks.
And just today we have seen a reckless and unprecedented violation of Poland and Europe's airspace by more than 10 Russian Shahid drones. Europe stands in full solidarity with Poland.
Von der Leyen says the EU must put more pressure on Russia to come to the negotiating table, and the EU is working on another package of sanctions against Moscow. CBC News has learned that an Ottawa man is among those killed in the Portugal funicular crash. 42-year-old Aziz Ben Harif lived in Orleans with his wife. They were on vacation in Portugal when the streetcar derailed. The CBC's Nathan Fung spoke to some of Ben Harif's friends and neighbors.
We wake up in the morning and we just wonder if it was a nightmare.
Serene Hashash is one of Aziz Ben Harif's neighbors in Ottawa. She's known him for 5 years and say they consider each other family.
We're just really devastated. I mean, no words can really describe. We're heartbroken. No words can really describe.
Ben Harif's friends and family say he and his wife were visiting Portugal from Ottawa. The two were on the funicular streetcar that came off the rails, crashed, and killed 16 people. At least 2 Canadians died, according to Global Affairs Canada, which will not release their identities for privacy reasons. Ben Harif's wife, Hind Igernand, was seriously injured. Ayoub Saja is a close family friend. He first met Aziz Ben Harif while at university in Morocco. Both decided to move to Canada and made their homes in Ottawa.
I've known him more, half of my lifetime here in Earth. So it's really very difficult. He was a really simple person. He was the best of us. He was really a very generous person.
Agernan's brother says she is still in a Lisbon hospital being treated for her injuries. Nathan Fung, CBC News, Ottawa.
Liberal MPs are meeting in Edmonton today. The caucus retreat is meant to set the stage for next week's return to Parliament. Prime Minister Mark Carney is preparing for Monday. He will be looking across the floor at Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. It will be the first time the party leaders debate in the House of Commons. As Olivia Stefanovich reports, the economy is at the top of the agenda.
Prime Minister Mark Carney arriving in Edmonton to questions about his plan for the fall sitting of Parliament and a meeting he has scheduled later today with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith.
I look forward to seeing the Premier. Thank you.
The one-on-one happening on the eve of Carney's first major projects announcement, an attempt to shore up the Canadian economy as it slows during the trade war with the U.S.
This is not business as usual. This is like 1945 when Canada came out of the war and had to reinvent itself. Why? Because our biggest, our neighbor, biggest trading partner, ally is turning its back on Canada.
Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne is tasked with tabling and selling Carney's first budget in October, one focused on economic growth and also on austerity measures.
What you need to do, investment in our future, and at the same time be very rigorous when it comes to our expenses.
Some Liberals say they don't want to see green initiatives sacrificed as the government looks for areas to cut. Julie Derowitz represents a riding in downtown Toronto.
Do not underestimate our commitment to our climate targets.
Last week, Carney announced the delay of the electric vehicle sales mandate for at least a year. Today, Alberta's premier will ask him to go even further to protect her province's oil and gas sector. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Edmonton.
A court in BC is expected to decide whether a man charged in the killing of 11 people at a Vancouver festival is fit to stand trial. He's accused of driving his vehicle into a crowd during a Filipino heritage celebration in April. After his arrest, it was revealed the man was under the care of a mental health team. Georgie Smythe has the story.
Defence lawyers and Crown Counsel have been arguing in court for months on whether the man accused of killing 11 people at a Vancouver street festival in April is fit to stand trial. Kaiji Adamlo faces 11 counts of second-degree murder after he allegedly drove his SUV into a crowd at a Lapu Lapu Day event. We're expecting a decision on whether he is fit to stand trial and if his broader prosecution will be able to proceed today. Criminal lawyers like Rebecca McConkie, who was also the first vice president of the Trial Lawyers Association of BC, say the public should think about the fitness to stand trial process as a way to make sure defendants can understand the nature and consequences of court proceedings.
It's meant to ensure that accused people who have a mental disorder are not going to trial without being able to meaningfully participate. So fitness to stand trial is about the accused's mental capacity now, not their mental capacity or mental state at the time of the offence.
The details of these hearings are covered by a publication ban, which limits what media can share about what's happening in court. That ban is currently being challenged by a group of media outlets, including the CBC, who argue the ban is too broad. We're expecting a decision on whether that publication ban might be loosened today as well. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
Rice worms are threatening to upend a crop that has been gathered by Indigenous communities for generations. The pest is spreading fast. It's destroying the wild rice harvest in northern Saskatchewan. And as Alexander Silberman reports, harvesters and scientists are teaming up in the search for a solution.
Wild rice is a major economic driver in the region. But at the local rice weighing station, there is growing concern as these insects eat away harvesters' income.
These worms are getting to be a big problem.
Lionel Smith says the bugs are killing so much of his rice, he's decided not to harvest at all.
20-30% of your crop is damaged.
Researchers are now testing a type of trap, using pheromones to attract the insects away from the rice. Experts don't know exactly why the worms are making their way north from Manitoba. Tim Charbel is a professor at the University of Saskatchewan. He believes forest fires could be one of the causes.
You get new growth. It provides an opportunity to the rice worm moths.
Harvesters say the search for a solution to save their livelihood can't come soon enough. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, near Pine House, Saskatchewan.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. If you like the World Report podcast, please follow us and tell a friend. It helps spread the word. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and Information Radio, your morning show, is live in our city this morning. We're at Merchants Corner on Selkirk Avenue at Andrew Street, and pleased to be here to learn all about it. Thanks for joining us on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app, and on YouTube, where you can see a whole bunch of people that are going to be filling the space, and some that are already here with the breakfast on. So Merchants Corner is really quite a gem in our city. Selkirk at Andrews, this is one of the most historic parts of our city. This space wasn't always a hub for education, housing, and community. A reminder of how much has changed and the goals for this community moving forward coming up. There's also going to be a community breakfast here between 6:30 and 8:30 in the morning. You can probably already hear people back in the kitchen getting ready to go. So we thank everyone for having CBC out here at Merchants. This hour, in addition to that, we're going to hear more about high blood pressure. I'm switching gears completely, but that's the topic of our medical column. It affects about a quarter of all Canadian adults, that many people. It often, though, goes undiagnosed or untreated, and maybe you've dealt with this in your own life. So Dr. Bardwaj is going to walk us through what we know and what we think we all know about high blood pressure. It's one of those things where sometimes a doctor says it and you go, oh yeah, I'll get to that. But how much should you be concerned about it, and what do you do when often there are no symptoms? So Dr. Bardwaj on this hour with an interesting column. All right, when we were driving over here to Selkirk Avenue from Portage Avenue, a pretty nice morning. I'm just going to dip into the weather and then we'll get to headlines. It's looking like we're going to have a pretty hot day ahead, and it's going to be sunny and a high of 28. And Abby will have a bit more detail in a sunny and a high of 28. Tonight, clear. For Winnipeg, and then tomorrow we are expecting that we could see a chance of showers moving in, and then it could be wet again on Friday. So that's our current condition, and a couple temperatures here in Winnipeg as we just update what's going on. As I mentioned, a nice drive out there, felt pretty mild. It's already 12 degrees and clear in the city of Winnipeg. If you're waking up in Brandon, it's clear and 10 degrees. Over in Dauphin, it is clear and it is 7 degrees currently in the forecast. And Thompson right now is mostly cloudy and 6 degrees. We will go to Abby. We've kind of all switched gears here. I'm going to cover weather this morning. Abby will be in with the commute. But first, Heather's here with headlines.
Good morning. Well, an advocate for people living in poverty says it is high time police were stationed at the ER of Winnipeg's biggest hospital. The province is paying for 2 city police officers to be stationed around the clock in the emergency room at the Health Sciences Centre. Last month, nurses there voted to put the hospital on a grey list after a series of violent incidents. Al Weeb, longtime community advocate for the homeless, believes the presence of uniformed police will act as a deterrent. A former downtown bus route may have geothermal and shared thermal energy potential. City of Winnipeg planners want to find out more and have requested approval to do a feasibility study on Graham Avenue. I'll be back with more Manitoba News at 6:30.
All right, thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Well, Abby, around me, they are putting out the pancakes, and it smells like coffee, and it's absolutely delightful. And you're about to tell us that it's perfect weather if people want to come join us.
Sure, perfect weather, and the traffic is still good to get to the pancake spot, but just watch out for westbound closure on Alexander Avenue. We're going to see full northbound closure on Allen Street from there, and of course on Abanoy making Archibald Street, we're going to see lane reductions along that axis. Don't forget the ramp from Abanoy Jamaican to Pembina Highway is closed. You see anything in traffic? Let us know. 788-3093.
when the community literally took sledgehammers to the inside of the then despised Merchants Hotel, bar and vendor here on Selkirk, although it didn't start out that way, it was a community spot for a gathering. But then, the 90s took a bit of a turn. It became known, that hotel, for some gangs meeting up, and obviously it was for a lot of residents in the neighborhood something they wanted to see go. And so then they took sledgehammers to the inside and finally realized a dream. That was 10 years ago, and that's when this place was born officially. Merchants Corner is where we're broadcasting from live today, as I mentioned, at 541 Selkirk at Andrew Street. It's in its 8th year operating in Winnipeg, here at the corner of this neighborhood. It is an educational hub for the University of Winnipeg. It's also home to the Community Education Development Association, or CEDA. It's also a place where students live right above us, on floors above us, and a building behind as well. There's 30 affordable units, and the front foyer is this beautiful wide open space. There's classrooms and facilities. There's a kitchen where they're making a breakfast this morning here, and there's all kinds of space here. That the idea is to invite the community in. Well, Kathy Mallett received the Order of Manitoba for her leadership in our province and in our Indigenous community, especially in helping Winnipeg's inner city with positive change for so many years. She's been the head of CEDA in the past. She currently sits on the board of the Merchants. She cares deeply about what's happened here today, and she grew up in the North End. Good morning. Thank you for opening the show with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
What does Merchants mean to this neighborhood, compared to the vision you guys had for it when you were one of the founders back in the day?
Well, I think when we came together back in 2011 with a steering committee of a lot of the organizations that are around here in this area, and the opportunity came to look at buying this building, and so we took that opportunity and thought, it would be good to have something positive come out of this structure here. And
a place that, as I mentioned,
yes,
especially in the 90s, was not positive.
Wasn't very positive.
Yeah.
And so it was, we knew it was a big task, and we had to find the dollars to do it. And a lot of folks, there's so many people that were involved with this formation of this beautiful building.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the inside of the building, not so much on the outside, but the outside is important too. And I'll touch a little bit on, there's 4 very large eagle feathers that are attached to the building.
So if you're outside the building, imagine the Merchants Corner.
Yep.
The sledgehammering happened inside. I know I've said this a bunch, but I just loved that moment. I think you were sharing with me, like, it was one of the elders from the resident, like, that really was, like, so happy to see this change being born all those years ago. So what happened here is they had to keep the outside of the Merchants Corner because it was a historic 1913 hotel. And so inside, demolished, changed. We'll describe what it's like. Outside, though, what was added to the front are these feather structures you mentioned. They almost look like the opening, if you look at the side of a fish, like gills, like they open. You actually want them to resemble feathers even more, right?
Yeah, we want to either add paint to them, obviously, and some lighting of some sort.
Got it.
So that those 4, and they're very large feathers. I don't know how many. I haven't.
Yeah, it's the whole storefront story of the building here. Yeah, exactly. They span the main floor of the building.
And right now they're all painted brown, so they kind of, blend in with the building. So we really want them to be outstanding. So, but the thing is, we have to raise funds again to get folks to do the work for us.
Merchants Corner has been born of community coming together with funds to make this happen. So maybe some of that beautification will happen. Can we talk about how nice it is in here? Like, we're in the foyer. It's double high with the staircase. Behind us, people might see, if they're watching on YouTube, there's birds going up sort of around. What's the significance of the round shape of this place?
Well, there's a lot of other round spaces in the North End, plus also over the bridge in other Indigenous organizations. The round room concept seemed to have caught on. We kind of started back in the early 2000s when we're renovating, because a lot of us want to have a room that's round in the shape of a teepee, where we can have our ceremonies within the programs that we run, but also within the community. So this roundness here was something that we really wanted, and it's really it makes the building. You come in here and you feel it's a special atmosphere that happens in here.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I also like that when the friendship is in the laughter is being shared, which was happening a lot in the kitchen this morning.
Oh, yeah.
You can hear it echoing through.
Right.
What do you think, the goals of Merchants Corner when it was built were to bring community in, to have a positive space. But day to day, what happens here? Just if people have never been down here, what happens here?
We really, in the beginning, we wanted to have what we call an education hub, where we would have programs and for community people and students to come in here. And also when I worked with CETA, we had an after-school program for high school students, Indigenous and newcomer students that come together. And so this was a space for them. And just a real feeling of comfort here and safety.
How many suites are here, Kathy?
There is apparently... I just had to make a little note here for myself.
She's looking under her watch. She's got a little note. I love that. I'm actually going to do that when I'm on the air. That's a good tip. I like
We
that.
have 17 units in here.
Yeah.
And then across the street, just over here on, what's the street over here now? Pritchard.
The second building, yeah.
Pritchard, has the 13.
Okay, so 30 in total students live here. We're going to meet some of them, by the way, later.
Oh, sorry. 17 here.
Yep.
13 across.
Got it. So 30 in total.
Yeah.
If we look at it, we're going to meet some of those students later and talk about the benefit of getting an education, where you live, neighborhood you care about, and the benefit of being here. What are the goals moving forward that things that you would like to see develop here and grow?
Well, definitely our board is looking at really maintaining that outreach to the community here, and to look at make it a space that is open to lots of other programming, and so it's really to maintain it as a community education hub. That's important.
CBC just reported on some challenges here, speaking of education places, right? Like just up the way, Urban Circle Training Center, it's right here on Selkirk. They had those problems with the HVAC units. Just last week, they were stripped of copper. There were a whole bunch of nonprofits up here on Selkirk talking about some of the frustration that it costs them thousands of dollars. Merchants hasn't really been affected by a lot of that kind of challenge in the neighborhood. Do you think it's because people look at this space as, I don't know, something special to stay away from, or you know what I mean, in terms of, well, not that the other places aren't special as well, but I'm wondering if there's a reason you think that this place hasn't succumbed to some of that.
Well, when I think about the architect that worked with us in refurbishing this building, and she did this outreach to them, and this was at just before we were doing all this renovating that went on, and I think that when we had those community consultation meetings, there was really a lot of support for this building, the physical inside and outside, to change and be a part of the community again in a positive way, and so I think I get this feeling that this belongs to the community here.
Yeah,
that it's become a part of their lives.
It has been from the start, and that spirit continues.
Yeah, and I think that those 4 feathers that are outside, those eagle feathers, will help in that, because it's a very it's a spiritual thing.
So it'll be a recognizable point from street level. Come in, we're here for you.
Yes.
That architect you were sharing with me knocked on doors in this neighborhood.
And she was
to
pregnant.
get people's input. Wow. So how much
and this is winter
we're
talking about.
Wow. In Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for starting our show, for taking us back just for a moment to appreciate where we're sitting now. We're going to hear more, by the way, about some of the more current challenges coming up, because Merchants Corner, of course, opened in 2018, then the pandemic happened. So this morning is as much about awareness and inviting the community in as it is about learning what happens here. Kathy, really nice to have you with us.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Kathy Mallett, one of the founders of Merchants Corner and former head of CETA, but a current board member here as well.
Western Canada's best up-and-coming hip-hop, country, rock artists, and more are coming to Winnipeg. Winnipeg welcomes Breakout West September September 24th to 28th. A 4-day music conference and 3-day music festival, including the Western Canadian Music Awards, and CBC is a proud sponsor. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more.
6:24 a.m. is the time right now on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on the app and YouTube. I'm Marcy Marcusa. We're out live at Merchants Corner on Selkirk Avenue. If you want to come see us, breakfast starts here around 6:30 with pancakes on. Next on the show, though, let's turn our attention to some filmmakers, but some special ones. 3 years after Russia's full-scale invasion of their country, Ukrainian filmmakers are telling the stories of the people's struggle to survive. And that is highlighted by what's developing in national news this morning and what is happening with Russian drones over Poland, and then that village yesterday with the losses in Ukraine. There's a feature film that's just out that's premiering right now at the Toronto International Film Festival this week. It's called To the Victory. It imagines what life in Ukraine might be like years after the war. War changes everyone and everything. Vladimir Yatsenko is the producer of the film. I spoke with him at 6.
Good morning.
Your feature film explores Ukraine a few years after the war as you think ahead to better times. Why did you want to make it?
I mean, we choose it because it gives us a huge creative freedom, because if you put everything, ahead in the future, then you just take off the responsibility from your shoulders. You can create any kind of future. And for a director, it was important just to start thinking how its future could looks like.
Our province, Manitoba, has welcomed more than 30,000 Ukrainians since the war started, many of them women and children. Obviously, an aspect of post-war future in this film is a Ukraine depopulated of many women because many escaped to safety during the war and have not returned. Can you describe, what that's like, for families to be separated like that?
Yeah, sure. I think we face the biggest demographic catastrophe in Ukraine, because I give you very, very simple numbers. Like in 1991, when Ukraine got independent, we have 52 million people. Now we have around 28. So it's almost twice less. And around 8 million people live only moved to EU. And it's not only women, it's a lot of children. All of these children, went to kindergarten or to school. They got new friends, and they got new plans, they got new future. And the biggest issue, I don't think that they will ever come back to Ukraine. And a lot of friends of mine, they have their family crashed, because if you really separated for 3.5 years almost, then probably you became really strangers to each other, and you have a completely different lives. And we just start thinking about it, and this is how this film was created.
How has the war to that end created unique bonds for the men who have been left behind then?
Oh, I think if if you have a kind of man society, at the end of the day, you don't have to show your masculinity that much, because it's not anyone you have to show off, in a way, if you know what I mean. So this man, it became much more open to each other, and they don't, be shy to show to each other their support or gentleness even, and it's really interesting and funny to watch it.
I know that I was asking about that as well because, you tell a story of male friendship in Ukraine. And when you look at this film, it also explores life continuing, in shattered cities and towns. How did wartime life, how has that now, all these years in, been normalized?
Oh, thank you very much for this question. We now live two different lives, everyone who stay in Ukraine, because through the nights people try to survive. Or they go to some shelters, or they just too tired to go to some shelters, and they just hope that it's not going to be their turn in a way, because even today we have the biggest drone and missiles attack to compare with any attack, because they attack us every night. And in the morning we have a completely different life, kind of normal life. People, go to their working places. Children go to school and to universities and so on. So it's two different lives simultaneously, and it's became kind of new normal in a way, which is of course not normal, but that's how we try to adapt.
How do you hope that feature films like the one we're talking about, yours, will put a mirror to Ukraine and its people right now? What do you hope people will take from it?
Actually, I think it's really probably it's going to be sad. It sounds sad, but I'm afraid that everything has only started for the world, and this world, which we know for decades, it's not exist anymore, and we have to be there to accept it. And Ukraine is, we just in the middle of something, but I'm afraid not only us gonna be under the war, and you also got a very nice and predictable neighbor. So I think that it just only started. So we just would like to show people their possible future, and just say that even then it is alive. Even then it is a hope.
Дякую, Vladimir. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much. Дякую дуже. Thank you.
Vladimir Yatsenko, I spoke with him at 6 o'clock, the producer of the feature film To the Victory. It premieres at the Toronto International Film Festival this week. He was in a Toronto studio. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Traffic moving fine this Wednesday, September 10th, 788-3093. If you want to call Abby with anything, we're live at Merchants Corner. We'll have more special community programming coming up from here on Selkirk Avenue after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is 12 degrees, and summer continues to sizzle in Winnipeg. Sunny today, a high of 28, the Humidex 31. An advocate for people living in poverty says he supports the introduction of police in Winnipeg's biggest hospital. The province says it will pay for 2 city police officers to be stationed around the clock in the emergency room at the Health Sciences Centre. Nurses at the hospital last month voted to put it on a grey list because of a series of violent incidents. Al Weeb is a longtime community advocate for the homeless. He says as long as officers are trained to perform their jobs with empathy, the move is long overdue.
Safety is number one, and it should be, and for everyone, staff as well as other patients. So I think just the mere presence is a deterrent.
In addition to $1.6 million a year for the officers, Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera says the province will also spend $250,000 on 5 weapon detection scanners for HSC's main entrances. A Winnipeg housing advocate is skeptical about a new plan to limit the location of homeless encampments. A motion passed by the city's Community Services Committee would prohibit encampments near schools, daycares, playgrounds, and on medians or traffic islands. Marion Willis at St. Boniface Street Links agrees it is a good idea to keep encampments away from children and families, but says forcing people to pull up stakes every morning will just force some of them to relocate to other problem areas at the end of the day.
A sunset to sunrise model, I know it's well intended, but I think it's naive and it is not going to produce the results that the city or the mayor hopes that it might.
The motion says people who have to leave prohibited areas would be given information about other shelter options. A former downtown bus route may have geothermal and shared thermal energy potential. City of Winnipeg planners want to find out more. They've requested approval to do a feasibility study on Graham Avenue. They think areas below the surface could allow existing buildings to be connected to share excess energy. Dan Iskerski is the district planner downtown. He says the idea is part of a broader strategy to reconstruct the street.
We're not sure if geothermal will be something that we pursue. It's really going to be something that would come out of the study itself to understand what are some of the limitations and opportunities, right? In terms of geothermal downtown, I think the hydro building is probably the best known.
The report mentions Manitoba Hydro, True North Sports and Entertainment, and the Southern Chiefs Organization. It also says the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, Women's Health Clinic, and Manitoba Public Insurance have expressed interest in becoming users and suppliers of a district energy system. Well, ahead of Monday's return to Parliament, Prime Minister Mark Carney and the entire Liberal caucus are in Edmonton for a 2-day planning session. And while the Prime Minister's in Alberta, he is scheduled to meet with Premier Danielle Smith. Smith says she is looking for real movement on 9 federal policies she claims have undermined the province's economy and the future of the oil and gas industry. The Polish government is holding an emergency meeting after it says Russian drones crossed into Polish airspace last night. Poland says it brought down several Russian drones that entered its territory. NATO also deployed aircraft. Brendan Kearney is a retired U.S. colonel and former chief of staff of the U.S. Marines in Europe.
We don't want to anger the Russians, but at the same time, Russia has to be told that they are causing problems in a way that we're not going to let them get away with it. And when I say we, NATO.
This is the first time Poland has taken down suspected Russian drones in its territory. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. Manitoba's Nepalese community is banding together as violent unrest has upended that country's government. Nepal's prime minister has resigned after 22 people were killed in demonstrations against corruption and a now scrapped social media ban. Yesterday, protesters stormed the nation's parliament building and set it on fire. In Winnipeg, people rallied outside the Manitoba Legislative Building on Monday. One of the organizers, Biplaf Subedi, moved to Winnipeg 4 years ago and says it was important to rally in this city.
This brought some kind of peace. People got to say their piece. They got to pay their respects, dues. These kids, these teenagers, they're martyrs, right? We have to do something. We have to show our respects.
Subedi hopes this movement by young Nepalese at home will end corruption in his country. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, so Heather Wells, I know sometimes we come on location and it's early and there's no one here, but here's proof that we are not alone. Ready, guys? 1, 2, 3.
Good morning! Right? Love the energy.
I know. I love the energy, too. These are energy people. A lot of these folks that are up here early have been preparing for the students that are going to be waking up here at Merchants Corner. There's 30 on-site units here, and they'll come down and they'll have breakfast. And we hope the community comes as well, because that's the whole idea. Good job, guys. Good job. That's the whole idea here with being at Merchants Corner this morning, is to let the community know what goes on in these walls at 541 Selkirk. So it's lovely. I am tasked with doing the weather today because we are on remote. And so I'm going to get into our regional forecast now. It's looking like it's going to be hot, and then when all this really heat cracks, we're going to have some rain out the back of it to relieve it. In Winnipeg today, sunny, a high of 28 degrees. And then into tonight, clear, low 14. Tomorrow, sunshine, increasing loud late in the morning, and then a 60% chance of showers tomorrow afternoon. So I think earlier in the show I was mistaken. I said showers start tonight. This is a system moving in tomorrow night, and then into Friday. Also, we're looking like we could have some showers. Brandon, sunny today, but fog patches this morning could be possible for you. Your high's 29. Dauphin really similar at 28 with sun. And in Thompson, a sunny day as well, but a little bit windy. Wind south, gusting 20 to 40 near noon. Your high 22, but with humid X, it'll feel like 25 in Thompson. So that is what we're looking at for the regional forecast. Just getting to some current conditions here around Manitoba this morning. It is clear in the city of Winnipeg. It's 12 degrees. In Brandon, it is also clear, and your condition is 10 degrees. Up in Thompson right now, it is mostly cloudy, and it is just 6 degrees. Well, Abby Adeyemi is back at Portage Avenue in our regular CBC studio. Is anything going on in the commute, Abby?
What I can tell you, Marcy, is traffic is moving steadily this morning if you're heading that way for some pancakes. But if you're coming from the Alexander Avenue axis, westbound has closures for waterworks. On Allen Street, northbound is completely shut near the Nearon Street for construction. And on Princess Street, the southbound median lane between James and William is closed for electrical work. But other than that, watch out for lane reduction on Abanoy-Jamaica around the Archibald axis, plus the ramp from Abanoy-Jamaica to Pemina Highway closed for now. And if you see anything in traffic, let us know, 788-3093.
All right. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
You're listening to CBC, and it's time for our business news with Hallie Cottenham, who's here with our report this morning. Good morning.
Hey, Marcy, I love hearing about pancakes. It's making me hungry.
It always makes everyone hungry when we're on remote. We always seem to land where there's food. Let's talk about tariffs. A challenge to Trump's tariffs is getting fast-tracked right now at the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yeah, it's granting an unusually quick hearing. Lightning fast was one way someone described it. It's all about whether President Donald Trump had the power under federal law to impose those sweeping tariffs. Yesterday, the justices agreed to hear the case in November. Unfortunately, the tariffs will stay in place in the meantime. If the High Court rules Trump didn't have the authority, importers might be owed up to $1 trillion refund, Marcy.
Let's go to another story. The maker of Wegovy and Ozempic, and we've all seen those ads a lot. The maker's, though, tightening its belt and laying off thousands of people. What's happening? Why is it going on?
Yeah, Novo Nordisk announced this morning it's cutting 9,000 jobs, or 11% of its workforce. The restructuring is meant to make the Danish company more nimble. It's facing massive competition, especially by its U.S. competitor Eli Lilly, which is the maker of Mounjaro. So the cuts are going to save the company $1.25 billion, which it says will pour into R&D, into helping control diabetes and obesity. Its shares this morning up sharply. Bit of a backstory. The company changed up its CEO in the spring after its shares fell, but prior to that, it was the market darling thanks to its semaglutide medicines, Wegovy and Ozempic. At its peak, Novo Nordisk was Europe's most valuable company, worth more than $650 billion, which was more than Denmark's entire GDP at the time.
Wow, what comparison that is. And Canadians' financial health might be on the upswing. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this is according to a survey out today. It's the National Payroll Institute's annual survey of working Canadians using data from the Financial Wellness Lab at Western University. They asked workers which best describe them: financially stressed, coping, or comfortable. It turns out the proportion of financially stressed workers has actually decreased from 41% last year to 36% this year. And those who consider themselves financially comfortable rose slightly from 28% to 30%. What's interesting, though, is when you break it down, the percentage of Gen Zs, Millennials, and Gen Xers in the stressed column is actually about the same, around 37%. And in fact, Gen Zs hold the second highest share of workers in the financially comfortable group at 32%, which I found surprising. It puts them just behind boomers, but ahead of millennials and Gen Xers.
I also find that surprising. All right, thanks, Hallie. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Marcy.
Live with our business news on CBC. That's Hallie Cottenham. Well, good morning, everyone. I love being out on remote at 6:41 a.m. on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on the app and on YouTube. My partner in crime, Corey Funk, is here, too. You want to go on mic, Corey, and say hello? Corey's been doing some work for this and setting us up. Of course, I'm putting him on the fly and getting him to get his mic on there.
Hey-o.
But so what do you think of this place, Merchants Corner? Because I know when you came down here to set up that you'd never been here before, 541 Selkirk Avenue, and learning about all the students that live here. And
I mean, it's cool. When you pull up, it's a cool vibe, right? Because it's an old building, and as Kathy was mentioning earlier, there's these feathers, these like metal kind of feathers outside. It's really cool. And when you walk in, it's bright. And it's bustling here. It's always super busy.
Yeah.
And when I was here, there was classes going on. There was students kind of coming in and out. And, Carl was here. We're going to hear from another. He was getting ready, the kitchen going. There's just always kind of some kind of bustle activity here.
Here come some students down right now.
Yeah, exactly.
With their sleepyhead sweats on, but they should be. They're having breakfast. That's what they're here for. They live on site. There's 30 different suites here. There's 17 in this building up on the second floor. And then behind us, there's another building that Merchants took over. This is a nonprofit. This was community-led and by a whole bunch of different partners. So the CETA, Community Education Development Association, is involved here. University of Winnipeg runs their urban studies programs and more out of this space. So as Corey mentioned, we are going to be meeting some of those students and hearing more about Merchants as our program goes ahead. And we're going to meet the folks that are in the kitchen this morning, this half hour also. But at 6:42 a.m., we're going to turn to our medical column next because Dr. Raj Bhardwaj has a story this morning about high blood pressure. In May of this year, Hypertension Canada actually released updated guidelines for the diagnosis and treatment of high blood pressure in this country. It's something a lot of us have in our families. Now, over the years, diagnosis and treatment of high blood pressure has been trending worse in Canada, actually. To talk more about it and why doctors are focused on controlling it better, here's our medical column with Dr. Raj.
Good morning, Marcy.
So why is blood pressure diagnosis and treatment getting worse according to Hypertension Canada?
Yeah, probably a bunch of reasons. They say that, first of all, the blood pressure guidelines for doctors were maybe overly complicated in past years. There were different definitions of, how high was too high and how best to treat it and even what numbers to target for optimal blood pressure. And then the other big thing is that, blood pressure control is mostly managed by family doctors. And it's gotten worse as more people have lost access to family doctors. So they say that, prioritizing primary care access is going to be important to improve blood pressure care in Canada. And then from my point of view, it's tough because blood pressure high blood pressure doesn't usually cause any symptoms day to day. So it's not like, a headache or chest pain, which drives people to go see a doctor. It's something that we all have to be more proactive about, even though it's not causing symptoms. And then, there's other sort of technicalities. We don't usually diagnose high blood pressure in a person based off a single measurement because blood pressure fluctuates throughout the day. Stress and exercise and smoking and caffeine and all sorts of things can alter your blood pressure in the short term. So to make a proper diagnosis takes, accurate measurements. It takes time. It takes, repeat measurements, and it takes monitoring. And a lot of times we don't do those things.
It's interesting that you raise up prioritizing primary care and access, because at the time people will be listening to this, we're going to be broadcasting at Merchants Corner. So when we're talking about community health, access continually comes up in all kinds of ways, whether it's healthcare, education. When you look at blood pressure, why do doctors worry about it in the first place? Like, what's the risk of having high blood pressure if you're not getting symptoms day to day?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that you're not getting symptoms day to day, so it's this hidden thing that is happening inside your body, and it's damaging your blood vessels, right? The high blood pressure causes a little bit of damage to the tiny blood vessels in your organs over time, and we're talking years to decades. And that damage over time increases your risk for all sorts of actual medical conditions. So, high blood pressure increases your risk of a heart attack or heart disease 2 to 3 times, increases your risk of stroke 3 to 4 times higher risk, increases your risk of cognitive decline and dementia as you age, about a 60% higher risk if you have high blood pressure, kidney disease, vision problems, blindness, erectile dysfunction, all sorts of medical conditions are more likely to happen to you if your blood pressure runs high. And then the flip side of that, the good side of that, is that controlling blood pressure lowers those risks. And controlling blood pressure doesn't always mean taking pills, right? It could be increasing your activity, losing weight, improving your sleep, quitting smoking, changing your diet, all those types of things. Now, one thing to mention is that about 90 to 95% of the time, high blood pressure is you've got it because you've got it. It's what we call primary hypertension. But about 5 to 10% of the time, high blood pressure is secondary. So that means it happens because you've got something else that's causing the high blood pressure, like a thyroid problem, a kidney problem, bad sleep apnea, something like that. But either way, we've got effective treatments. It's just that the approach is slightly different.
What are the numbers people should be aware of? Like, what's high, what's normal, according to the updated guidelines?
Yeah, in this guideline, Hypertension Canada says that the numbers that define high blood pressure are 130 and 80. And those two numbers are the blood pressure in your bigger arteries during your heartbeat. So that top number is the pressure while your heart is squeezing, pumping the blood forward. And the bottom number is while your heart is relaxing and refilling with blood before the next squeeze. And so measuring your blood pressure it's really important that we get accurate readings. And that means, the right size of blood pressure cuff around your upper arm, the right kind of machine. About 90% of blood pressure devices sold in pharmacies are validated, but only about 45% of the ones sold online. It means checking your blood pressure more than once because, like I said, all sorts of things can transiently make your blood pressure go up, right? If you have a cup of coffee and then check your blood pressure 15 minutes later, it's going to be higher than if you had checked your blood pressure before your cup of coffee, probably, right? So the ideal way to do it is put your blood pressure cuff on, then sit and relax for 5 minutes. No screens, no nothing, no coffee, no nothing. And then you take your blood pressure every minute for 3 minutes and you write all the numbers down. And then I would also add, don't look at the numbers or don't think too hard about the numbers because I've seen a lot of people who say, well, I was stressed, so I took my blood pressure. It was high. That stressed me more. I took it again. It was higher. I was getting even more stressed. And they get into this sort of spiral, right, where their blood pressure just keeps going up. So just write your numbers down, do it, a couple times a day for a week, and then take your numbers to your family doctor.
Should everyone be doing that, or only people with symptoms, should you have them, or a history of heart problems maybe in the family, or if you're older than 50, for example, that's when a lot of checks start?
Yeah, so I mean, every adult should do this, but especially if you have a history in the family of, high blood pressure or some of those things that are caused in part by high blood pressure, like heart problems and strokes and kidney problems, things like that, in the family. In terms of age, young adults, so between 18 and 40, that's the group where high blood pressure is most often missed in the first place, and then not treated even if it is noticed. And I think that's a cognitive bias that we've got, that all of us have. We're thinking, you're probably just stressed today. This is probably just you don't like doctors, whatever. But that cognitive bias costs us in terms of catching people early. And from a healthcare economics point of view, and even, quality of life point of view, if we can catch that high blood pressure when you're in your 20s or 30s or 40s, then we can avoid a huge amount of healthcare spending and avoid a huge amount of health decline by the time you're in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, right? So people will presumably be living healthier, happier lives of having avoided things like heart attacks and strokes and kidney problems and stuff.
If a person's diagnosed then with high blood pressure, what then?
Yeah, so the guidelines say that that's when we sort of call in the cavalry, right? We say, okay, let's get all the people working on it. So the dietitians, the exercise specialists, the mental health professionals, the family doctors, the specialists if needed, can all work to lower your blood pressure. And once we start a program to lower your blood pressure, then it's not a sort of set it and forget it kind of thing, right? We need to monitor it. We need to know that we're hitting that target of getting it below 130 and 80. It's one of those things where, it's kind of like weeding your garden. You got to tend to it from time to time. It's not a do it once and you never have to do it again kind of thing. And just like gardening, the better you take care of it, the more you'll benefit.
All right, Dr. Bardwaj, thank you.
My pleasure.
That is our medical column with Dr. Raj Bardwaj. And as I always like to remind you, if you have an idea for Dr. Raj, he loves hearing from you. He also takes questions. If you just have a medical question, maybe he'll fashion an answer out of it and look up some reports and medical journals to have a column on it. It is 9 minutes to 7 o'clock. You're listening to CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa, out with Corey Funk in our community on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. We're at Merchants Corner this morning. This is a nonprofit community education hub. All kinds of things go on in this space at 541 Selkirk Avenue at Andrews. This morning, though, it is breakfast for the students that live here and for the community as well, as people are coming in and out of this bright, beautiful foyer. It's 2 stories. Of course, this space years ago was in Merchants Hotel. Lots of history here. The outside had to be preserved somewhat. The inside is all brand new, though, and what a gorgeous space. It's now full of about, I'd say about 20 people. Some have come in just from community to have breakfast. Some are students, as I mentioned. The breakfast runs till 8:30 if you want to come down and get some pancakes. And let's talk to one of the people that was behind making it, because we have Carl Levasseur with us. He's the cook here at Merchants Corner, normally cooking for the students. Good morning, Carl.
Good morning. Good morning.
And Frankie Zhao is here, the smiling face that you might see at the front door if you do pop into Merchants Corner here. Frankie's a community connector here. Hi, Frankie.
Hi, good morning, Marcy.
What's lovely about working here? What do you love about working at Merchants Corner?
I can see people from outside this building every year. So just greeting to students here and greeting to community people. It's great to communicate with everyone here.
Yeah.
So especially it's North End, and people here are really friendly actually. It's just different as from the stereotype that some people may have. Yeah.
Yeah. The North End folks are a special kind of friendly. Like,
yes.
You feel that. I always have felt that in this part of our city.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of people? Obviously, you get the people that are going to school here,
Mm-hmm.
but when you get people coming in off the street, are some of them just inquiring, like, "Hey, what's this place?" or "Could this be for me? This educational, journey?"
Yes, some people from outside also ask if I can have any chance to continue my learning, because UW is here, University of Winnipeg is here.
Mm-hmm.
They offer low barriers program like bus beginning university successfully. They face open to all, so it's a great chance for them. Yeah.
How important is it that you guys are right here in this William White neighborhood, right on Selkirk Avenue, with offering those opportunities? Because they're offered all over the city. You could go downtown or somewhere else, but how important is it that Merchants is here with that?
The people living around this area may have some barriers for learning or for living, so it's important for us to be here to offer some chance opportunity for them, to let them know that we're here for them. If you need anything to going to keep going, you're learning or something, you have chance. We are here to help you. So that's important, not only for students, but also for people living in this area. We have some, like a board that we collect information from our partner organizations. So once they have events or once they have some programs, wonderful programs, we can show just on the board, and they have a chance to view it. So,
and we're going to hear more about the community outside of this interior space at Merchants Corner in the next hour, because one of the things I know that changed since the pandemic is the depth of food insecurity in this neighborhood has grown. So there are food bank lineups up the way and across the street that I'm told by the folks at CETA just grew during the pandemic, and they've only grown more. So there's still some recovery that needs to happen in this part of Winnipeg. Now, speaking of food, my new best friend is Carl Levasseur. You were like the most joyful guy I've ever met, Carl. Carl's the head cook here.
I owe the joy all to my mom. So it's, I get all of that from her. So good morning, Mom.
Good morning. Oh, I love that. I love that you're saying good morning, your mom.
Yeah, she's listening.
Oh,
so,
good.
Yeah.
So let me ask you about the cooking here. Who do you normally cook for? You're cooking for everyone this morning with the pancakes, but who do you normally cook for?
We here at CETA, we run an after-school program from grade 8s to grade 12. They start arriving around 3:30 in the afternoon. So our responsibility for our students, our young adults as they like to be called, we have a snack prepared for 3:30 when they come in, and then we have a supper service I try and start dishing up at 4:45 in the afternoon. Yeah, it's fantastic. So we're doing anywhere between 80 to over 100 meals every day, Monday to Friday.
Wow. What do you hear from the young people who you're feeding about what they think of either your food or why they're grateful for it?
Yeah. And this always touches my heart every time. It's the expression you get from them. It's that look in their eye. They're grateful, they're thankful, and they're humbled, and it's beautiful. And they're showing up every day. And it's, this has been cooking a long time for many years. So this is the best job I've had within this industry. It's great.
Why do you care to do it here in this neighborhood? And what does it give you to be right here?
I get it from my mother. Being raised with a single parent, she always told me, you take care of everybody. She says, you do the best that you can and you give what you can offer. And she says, good things will always come to you. And she's right. Are
you from this community back in the day, or would you have ties here to this area?
Yes, I have deep ties to the North End. My son's a North End boy, my grandson. Yeah, my grandkids, they're fantastic. So a lot of years here.
And who taught you to cook? You said you've been cooking a long time. It's the best job,
my Auntie Jean and my mother.
Yeah.
It started there. They planted the seed and then went on to commercial.
What's your hope for this area? Selkirk Avenue just always continues to be. The community spirit never goes away here. That love and joy, as Frankie so well put it, the spirit of the people. But yet, that depth of poverty and challenges with housing, the food lineups for food. What's your hope for this area moving forward?
Well, with the baby steps that we're doing and the services that we're providing, if we can expand on that even a little more, like just baby steps, we can't fix everything right away, right? So just the little steps, take it day by day, and just the students keep coming in. I love it. It's fantastic.
Well, we're going to let you get back to the kitchen. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you so much.
And good morning, Mom. Good morning, Auntie Jean.
Yes. Good morning, Winnipeg.
Good morning, Winnipeg. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thanch you, too, for being here for the work you do.
Thank you so much.
This is community work. We're right at the heart of it here, sitting at Merchants Corner with Carl Levasseur, who cooks for all those young people who come in here every day for meals. He's a cook at Merchants Corner. And Frankie Zhao, who's a community connector here at Merchants Corner. More to come still ahead in our live broadcast from Selkirk Avenue. This morning, though, we're going to take you back right now to our studio at Portage Avenue to find out about what else is making news and headlines with Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, questions are being raised about a plan to limit the location of homeless encampments in Winnipeg. A motion passed by the city's Community Services Committee would prohibit encampments near schools, daycares, playgrounds, and on medians or traffic islands. James Thompson lives in an encampment in Fort Douglas Park and worries these new rules will force people like him to be constantly relocating. Manitoba's Nepalese community is banding together as violent unrest has upended that country's government. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
In Winnipeg today, a nice, sunny, really hot day, a high of 28 with humidex. It's going to feel like 31. Winnipeg right now is clear and 12 degrees. It's going to be warm across the province again, but cloudy in Thompson. If you see anything in traffic, remember, slow down. We're still all getting used to back to school. But if you spot any major problems, please pass them along to us and we'll get them on the air at 788-3093. Give Abby a call. Well, still ahead on our live community broadcast from Merchants Corner. When's the last time you walked down Selkirk Avenue? We're going to do that in the next half hour as we dig into understanding how this place, this educational hub, fits into the wider neighborhood and also what the wider neighborhood needs. In addition, in the next hour, we're going to hear how a nonprofit based out of Merchants Corner plans to provide free internet for 1,000 North End households and why they say that internet and access should be a right, and they're trying to help that. And then at 10 to 8, to news of the day. New and tighter rules on homeless encampments could be a reality in Winnipeg. What's the impact on those who live in those encampments? We're going to hear from two people. Stay tuned.
Today on The Current.
Today we're drinking fries! What's your favorite flavor?
Teenagers love their energy drinks, and there's a growing number marketed as healthy, but experts say there's too much caffeine in there for young people. Should Canada ban energy drinks for kids under 16 like the UK has done? We'll talk about that coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Poland says its airspace has been violated. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk says his country shot down multiple drones during an attack on western Ukraine. Poland's armed forces are now on a heightened state of alert, and Tusk has asked for a meeting with NATO allies this week. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says Russia's incursion into Polish airspace was absolutely reckless. Reporter Anna Cunningham has the latest.
The Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk speaking in an emergency meeting. He says a large number of Russian drones violated Polish airspace, describing it as posing a direct threat. Tusk says this is the first time Russian drones have been shot down over the territory of a NATO country. Polish, NATO and Dutch pilots are understood to have been involved. Tusk says Poland is most likely dealing with a large-scale provocation. Russian attacks on Ukraine have increased in recent weeks. Poland has previously scrambled its own air force along its long eastern border with Ukraine, but until last night that was only as a precaution. Airports, including the main international airport Warsaw-Chopin, were closed but have now reopened. Prime Minister Tusk says he is in constant contact with the head of NATO, Mark Rutte. There remains uncertainty as to whether Russia's actions were deliberate.
It might have been more of a test,
says Matthew Saville from RUSI, the London-based Royal United Services Institute. Poland's fellow NATO members have issued statements expressing solidarity and concerns.
Europe stands in full solidarity with Poland,
says the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen addressing the European Parliament. She described what happened as reckless. For now, there has been no response from Russia. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
This is the most read story at cbcnews.ca on our main page. Protesters are chanting beside flaming garbage cans in Paris. It is one of the so-called Block Everything demonstrations being held across that country. Many French citizens say they are struggling with the high cost of living. Protesters are demanding President Emmanuel Macron resign. Tens of thousands of security forces have been deployed. Some of the protests have led to clashes between demonstrators and police. About 200 people have been arrested so far. Sébastien Lecornu is now the new Prime Minister of France. Israel is facing criticism for yesterday's strike on Hamas members in Qatar. Even Israel's ally, U.S. President Donald Trump, is saying it was not a good idea. But despite the international reaction, Israel is defending its actions. Reporter Dominic Velitis is following the story.
I'm not thrilled about the whole situation.
US President Donald Trump is distancing the United States from Israel's strike in Qatar yesterday.
It's not a good situation. But I will say this, we want the hostages back, but we are not thrilled about the way that went down.
Posting on social media, Trump said Israel's decision to strike Qatar was made by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu alone. Trump also claimed that he'd directed his special envoy Steve Witkoff to inform the Qataris the attack was coming, but that it was too late to stop it. Qatar has since confirmed the phone call came as blasts were being heard in its capital, Doha. Hamas says 5 of its members were killed in the strike, including one of its chief negotiators. The attack has been widely condemned in the Middle East and beyond, with Russia the latest to do so, describing it this morning as a gross violation of international law. Analyst Mona Yacobian believes the attack has undermined US credibility in the region.
I think with this attack, many in the region are questioning how much they can rely on the United States for its security and how credible the United States is as an interlocutor, and in particular, how much is the U.S. actually able to restrain Israel?
But despite widespread international criticism, Israel appears to have doubled down this morning, with its defence minister warning the country's long arm will act against its enemies anywhere. Dominic Velitis for CBC News, Bristol, England.
A street sweeper cleans up debris in Kathmandu. Nepal's health ministry says the number of people killed in this week's anti-corruption protests is now 25. 633 people have been injured. The country's prime minister has resigned, but demonstrations in the streets went into a second day. The country's parliament was torched. It's now been left in ruins. Soldiers are on the streets. There is an indefinite curfew in place in Kathmandu. The federal government is preparing to announce a list of major projects it wants to fast-track. Prime Minister Mark Carney says they are essential to Canada's economic interests and they will help to counteract U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs. However, our colleagues at Radio-Canada have learned that no oil pipelines are on that list. The CBC's Janice McGregor joins me now from Ottawa. And Janice, what can you tell us about this project being off the table?
Marcia, Mark Carney won't exactly be saying no, but our colleagues at Radio-Canada are reporting this morning that he is expected to say not yet. And the reason is straightforward. No company has stepped forward with a serious proposal to build one. Daniel Smith suggested last June that there would be an oil pipeline submitted to the federal government for consideration, but that apparently hasn't yet materialized. Canada has a long and troubled history of expensive projects being proposed and then derailed by politics, by protests, as well as shifting energy market conditions in recent years. But basing the new major projects office in Alberta, appointing former Trans Mountain Pipeline executive Don Farrell to run it, that was intended to set a new tone. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith remains critical of federal laws that she says discourage private sector investments in additional pipelines. In a letter last May, she warned the Prime Minister that not having a pipeline on the initial list is going to perpetuate investment uncertainty and send a sobering signal to Albertans who are concerned about Ottawa's commitment to national unity.
Does this mean the energy sector is going to be let down?
Not necessarily. A draft list of 32 projects that were said to be under consideration was obtained by the Globe and Mail last week, and reportedly it did include some 14 energy-related projects. The newspaper suggested that many of these were focused on developing and shipping resources from Western Canada. So look, the pitching and prioritization process is just getting started. We don't know the exact timing of Carney's announcement of the first top priorities, but the Prime Minister has already suggested that new investments in port infrastructure, particularly for the north, are coming soon.
Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. CBC News has learned that an Ottawa man is among those killed in the Portugal funicular crash. 42-year-old Aziz Ben Harif was on vacation in Portugal when the streetcar derailed. The CBC's Nathan Fung spoke to some of Ben Harif's friends and neighbors.
We wake up in the morning and we just wonder if it was
a nightmare.
Serene Hashash is one of Aziz Ben Harif's neighbors in Ottawa. She's known him for 5 years and say they consider each other family.
We're just really devastated. I mean, no words can really describe. We're heartbroken. No words can really describe. And
Ben Harif's friends and family say he and his wife were visiting Portugal from Ottawa. The two were on the funicular streetcar that came off the rails, crashed, and killed 16 people. At least 2 Canadians died, according to Global Affairs Canada, which will not release their identities for privacy reasons. Ben Harif's wife, Hind Igernand, was seriously injured. Ayub Saja is a close family friend. He first met Aziz Ben Harif while at university in Morocco. Both decided to move to Canada and made their homes in Ottawa.
I've known him more, half of my lifetime here in Earth. So it's really very difficult. He was a really simple person. He was the best of us. He was really a very generous person.
Igernand's brother says she's still in a Lisbon hospital being treated for her injuries. Nathan Fung, CBC News, Ottawa.
A superstar makes her only tour stop in Canada this year. That is Abracadabra by Lady Gaga. She is bringing her Mayhem Ball tour to Toronto for 3 days, beginning tonight. It is Gaga's first stadium tour since 2018, and Toronto is her only Canadian stop during this leg of the tour. On Sunday, Lady Gaga took home 4 MTV Video Music Awards for her latest album, including Artist of the Year.
Choose the road on the west side as the dust flies. Watch it burn.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Well, I remember back in the day, now you know that I'm old, I used to come to the city to see my cousin that had moved here, and this was like the heart of the community. Like there was all these stores and places you could shop, and they closed down the street because used to be a fair, like Selkirk Avenue Fair back in the day, and it was so much fun. Like everybody came together, all walks of life. Everybody wanted to be part of this community, and that's where I'd like to see it come again, to be like the hot spot of Winnipeg again. My name is Verla Boyd, and I am in post-secondary at the U of W. My major is urban inner city, and my minor is Indigenous Studies. You're listening to Information Radio, live from Merton's Corner on Selkirk Avenue on CBC Radio 1.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That is exactly where we're sitting this morning. Great to be out here on Selkirk. Beautiful day ahead. Going to be nice in Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at CBC in your community. This hour, we're going to hear more about Merchants Corner. We're going to hear more about from the students that care about this place, that come here to access just quiet time, study space, in some cases food. It's about 50 people around me enjoying a community breakfast. Food is also an issue outside in this neighborhood. Food bank lineups that have not disappeared. As we continue to explore Merchants Corner, we want to get outside the space. This half hour we'll get out onto the street to understand how it fits into the community and how the needs have changed here. One of the things that hasn't bounced back since the pandemic is the depth of food insecurity here. So stay tuned. We're going to take a walk down Selkirk with the head of the Community Education Development Association. Also, I want to mention that at 7:40, really interesting story. If you live in Winnipeg's North End, around this area, you may soon be getting new services and free internet. There's 1,000 North End households that are involved in a special project, and we're going to learn all about that. That's coming up at 20 to 8. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells, who has other news headlines at 7:11.
Good morning. Well, an advocate for people living in poverty says it is high time police were stationed at the ER in Winnipeg's biggest hospital. The province is paying for 2 city police officers to be stationed around the clock in the emergency room of the Health Sciences Centre. Last month, nurses there voted to put the hospital on a grey list after a series of violent incidents. Al Weeb, longtime community advocate for the homeless, believes the presence of uniformed police will act as a deterrent to violence. A former downtown bus route may have geothermal and shared thermal energy potential. City of Winnipeg planners want to find out more. They've requested approval to do a feasibility study on Graham Avenue. We'll hear more about that in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
All right, out the window here, and Merchants Corner does have big windows that go right out onto Selkirk, so I can see the sky. It's looking like it's pretty clear out there. It's going to stay clear, mainly sunny and 12 in Winnipeg today. 12 right now, rather. In Winnipeg today, though, our high is 21, with Humidex going to feel like 31, so really hot. Tomorrow, late in the day, this is probably going to crack this heat, and then it's going to turn to some rain for Friday. But right now, let's enjoy this sunshine. After that crazy cold start to fall, I'm loving this now, right? All right, let's get into a little bit of what's happening with the morning commute. Abby Adiemi's back on Portage Ave in our studio. Any calls, Abby? What's up?
Yeah, Marcy, just looked outside the window, so traffic moving steady except for the cars at the light, but construction and repairs are still slowing things down in several regions across the city. On Kenniston, we have this, it's been on for over 24 hours now. We have that water main break that has been affecting traffic. It's mid-traffic down to one lane, northbound at Grants, both westbound traffic also reduced to one lane, and it's been on for over 24 hours. We hear that this Charlie actually called in and said this water main break right in front of the superstore in Kenniston is really slowing traffic down on both directions. So if you're going that way, look out for that water main break on the road. And on Alexander Street, we also have closures there for waterworks. Allen Street, we have it shut all the way down to Nearen for construction. And on Princess Street, the median lane between James and William is closed for electrical work. Higgins, both directions are affected between Waterfront and Curtis. Eastbound lane also being affected for gas work. So if you see anything in traffic, let us know. 788-3093.
Well, you're hearing our whole show inside Merchants Corner, but now you're going to hear us outside Merchants Corner. We're going to hear that item in a moment. Pardon me, you're hearing something that's coming up in this half hour, but we want to stay live here at Merchants Corner right now because as we were mentioning earlier in the morning, this place is all about education. It's a hub for education and a hub for community. So some of the folks that are coming in for breakfast this morning live here. There's 30 suites. Some are students. Some are coming from community. Nellie Carlin is someone that popped in for some food before she's heading off to school. She's in grade 12. Where do you go to school? Oh, I think Corey's got your mic on now. Where do you go to school?
I go to Tech Voc.
Okay, so you're in grade 12 there.
Yes.
What do you come to Merchants Corner to do?
So usually I come after school, and when I come after school, I usually get help with my homework or like just get down with my homework. And then if I'm done with my homework, I usually help my friends, and then we probably like grab food or go home.
Yeah, we heard this morning about how there's food available here. It's a drop-in. You live in the North End.
Yes.
How important is it for you to have a space like this in your neighborhood?
It just makes me feel safe, especially sometimes that like I can't afford to buy bus tickets. They kind of help with that too. So like I have no trouble getting home on a bus ride.
Got it.
Yeah.
So they actually help you even with the transportation?
Yes, they do.
Yeah. You actually also reached out to the Community Education Development Association, or CEDA. They're in here.
Yeah.
And you did that because you lived away for a bit, right? And then came back?
Oh, yeah, yes. In grade 10, I moved to BC. And then it's just a whole another different curriculum we do there in BC. And then in grade 11 I moved right back, and I think like it was hard for me to transition between the curriculum, but they helped me with their support and my parents' support. I successfully, got back into Manitoba's curriculum back again.
Got it.
Yes.
So did someone say, hey, maybe if you go to CEDA at Merchants Corner, they could help you? Or did you walk in and then it happened like just because you were here?
Yes. One person actually recommended me to come to CEDA. Mm-hmm. And yeah, when they did that, I remember it was a Friday of September. I think it was the beginning of September. And they had their session right at Sergeant Tommy Prince. And that's where I came with my friend. And then he introduced me to Elaine. And then that's how I got into CEDA. Yeah.
Miss Elaine, who's in the kitchen, by the way, right now, runs some of the programs here,
yes.
So students that pop in know her.
Yeah.
You're obviously, you are an example of the success of this place.
Oh yes.
They want people to come in, young people like yourself, to feel safe, to feel like you can quietly, as you said, do your homework.
Yes.
Have you connected with other young people here as well that are also finding it's an important place?
Yes, I have. So usually when I come, I usually usually talk to my friend or otherwise like connect with other people too. So like many students who come here, we have like different stories, different backgrounds, and just like learning about each other just gives you like, oh, I'm not in this alone. Just having to know that I'm not in this alone. You have another person, but like they come from a different background, different experiences, and different struggles make you like stronger, like a big family.
Yeah, it sure does.
Yeah.
What do you want to do after you graduate?
So I'm gonna go to UW and take 4 years of medical of sciences, and then after that I'm planning to go to U of M to try to go like to the medical field, because I've always wanted to do something in the medical field ever since I was young. That's why right now I do the dental tech program at TechVoc. I tech that, so this is my second year on my timetable. Yeah. It's very exciting.
Well, I'm pretty sure you can do whatever you want.
Oh, yes.
High fives for you. That's my old lady high five. Have a wonderful day at school. I know you got to get going because you're getting picked up to go to TechVoc. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you so much.
What a joy to meet people here who are just popping in to tell us what Merchants Corner means to them. We've been talking to Nellie Carlin, who's in grade 12. She's off to school at TechVoc, but she lives in this neighborhood and comes in here to be connected with educational help, support, and also to get some food and do her homework. Stay tuned. Our live broadcast continues from Merchants Corner. Well, you're hearing our whole show inside Merchants Corner, but now you're going to hear us outside Merchants Corner because we want to hear more about how it fits into the neighborhood. So the Executive Director of the Community Education Development Association, or CEDA, Jordan Bighorn, is with me to talk more about that. Hi.
Hi, good morning.
So it's hard not to be on Selkirk Avenue and want to ask about the history because it's such a historical part of Winnipeg, this street, the neighborhood. And when I think of Selkirk Avenue back in the day, I think about retail, commerce. I know community social services have been present here, and now, of course, education, as we've been learning. What's the biggest change you would say maybe in the last 5 years that you've noticed in terms of the community and how Merchants fits in?
Yeah, so right here on the corner of Selkirk and Andrews with Merchants Corner behind us, of course we know over the past 5 years with the pandemic taking most of that up, we would have seen most of community residents here who would be used to being on the streets, in the neighborhoods, in each other's homes, visiting businesses and organizations have to move back into their homes for safety. And so the past couple of years have seen us coming back out into community, coming back out into shared businesses, coming back into programming. And I think just getting a felt sense once again of the movement of how beautiful this space is, relations, there's a lot of multi-generational families here. And I think most recently the return of events in the park, the Austin Street Festival most recently, the St. John's Park Festival, where community organizations come out and you'll see residents that maybe you haven't seen in some time that you're related to. Now you're kind of enjoying a hot dog on the street. So,
has the recovery here on Selkirk Avenue post-pandemic been in pace with what we would see in other places, or you're talking about some positives coming out? Where is it still maybe lagging behind where you would say there's room here where we need to grow this now for people?
Yeah, as in any socioeconomic challenged community with particularly housing insecurity and food insecurity, these two still remain such a critical need. In fact, on a weekly basis just across the street here in front of the Elizabeth Fry Society, you'll have folks lining up rain or shine in order to receive hamper and food supports. That wasn't there before the pandemic, and it continues to grow on a weekly basis. The Bear Clan just down the street, who used to provide that, again, was overwhelmed with service at the time and still do good work in the community. But I think also the housing aspect for folks to have this ability to find employment, get into schooling, and then be able to depend on food on the table, that we haven't seen that support kind of come in a way that elsewhere that's happened.
Now, inside Merchants Corner, they actually had a cafe for some time, and then there were some challenges with it staying open. When you talk about food and connection, people dropping in, is it your hope that maybe something like that's going to come back? And I can't help noticing, too, we used to go to the windmill all the time, the windmill on Selkirk for CBC broadcasts, and that, of course, was lost. And I think maybe a quicker format pizza spot came up.
Yes.
How important is it that the sit-down cafe connected food places, just to look at that, maybe make a comeback here in a bigger way?
Huge. And just a quick shout out to Erica and Destiny, who were the owners and operators of the Perfect Place Cafe, which they survived opening just before the pandemic, but a small fire that shut down the Merchants Corner for repairs, they just couldn't survive that event. I think there was a sandwich named after our local hero, Mitch Bourbonier, who's well known in the city. It was the Mitch Witch, I think it was called.
I love it.
It was incredible because I think it opened up not only the connection to history of the community through the space of the Merchants Corner, but also residents. So Erica and Destiny grew up in the neighborhood. It was their passion project. They love food, they love community, and they knew everybody who came up and down the street. I think similar to the windmill and other businesses that have been here for some time, that's what they were providing, and we really need to have something like that come back.
Well, we've got a windy day here, but we're going to walk a little bit up Selkirk Avenue and look at some of the other aspects of things, how the Merchants connects and how things can continue to build.
Yeah.
This way?
Okay, let's
this
go.
way. So we made our way, we're outside of Nadinaway now, which people will know is a youth shelter. And we can walk this way, maybe across the street to the Bell Tower, also another known place people will know on Selkirk. When it comes to, what you do with CETA and with Merchants, how important is it to make connections? There's our street crossing. How important is it to make connections directly with youth, and how critical are your relationships with the schools? Because there's, I understand, 5 area schools here that you really have partnered with, really intentionally and directly.
Yes, well, with some data that we're aware of from a point of attendance and engagement in local schools, there's an average of about 350 students on an annual basis that are not fully engaged in schools. So we imagine it as a full school of students walking around, not in a traditional classroom. And we don't necessarily consider that they're not learning or they're absent. They are present. They are here. They are learning in different ways. And I think our relationship with schools like Nichimakwa, Children of the Earth High School, which in and of itself was a response to youth saying, we want to go to school, we want to learn, we want to have access to material, but in a way that represents who we are. And to date, I think the Winnipeg School Division has made its best efforts as it can. There's a lot more that could be done in conjunction with community. And so our partnerships that we form, whether it's community organizations, the North End Women's Center is down the way as well, right across the street, that acknowledges that our first educator is our mothers. And so that relationship that needs to be repaired and upheld. But our ability to be in space in schools, so CETA will have a small classroom space in Children of the Earth this year. The relationship with the principal there to acknowledge students who are coming into school for the first time that they may not have started with grade 9 credits, but they're at a level of comprehension and understanding that needs to be acknowledged by virtue of what they've had to experience growing up in the area here.
Do you get community gatherings here at the Bell Tower still? Because a lot of people, as you said, will know what that effort was about. Or is that stalled a little bit? And would you like to see it come back? Would that be important for this Selkirk?
I think this is an incredible gathering space. And in fact, the past couple of years with activists, as we know, like Michael of Redhead Champagne, would have been the spear point of a North End grad walk.
Whether someone steps up and into what Michael's role was back in the day to lead those community connection, I think they were weekly gatherings at the Bell Tower.
Every Friday.
We'll have to see.
Yeah.
Okay, onward. Ahead on the show, we will go onward to other aspects of Selkirk Avenue. We'll hear more about the community's needs and how Merchants Corner, where we're broadcasting from live today, fits in. That was a part of my conversation with Jordan Bighorn, who's the executive director of CETA. A quick traffic note here. Westbound, we just got a call. This is an important one, so I got to get it on. Westbound, no, I'm mixing up my... Dugald, pardon me. Westbound Dugald at Terracon Place in the middle lane. This could affect you. A semi's lost apparently a really large piece of wood, and so it could be dangerous for you. So westbound Dugald at Terracon Place. All right, Scott Reguer. Sorry, I'm trying to get to you here with Morning Sports.
No
it's a
worries.
busy morning. Yep. Thank you for being here. Football. Growing tension between a current and past Blue Bomber right now. What's happening?
Yeah, those would be Winnipeg coach Mike O'Shea, Marcy, and former star receiver Milt Stegall. Stegall, of course, a respected TV commentator these days. So many eyebrows were raised when Stegall said this about Zach Collaros on TSN.
Right now, I think Zach Collaros needs to make the decision and say, I'm not going to play football anymore. I need to think about my family. I need to think about the lifestyle I want to have later on in life. And he may not have those effects now, but there may be something down the road if he continues playing. I've been saying this all day long. If I see Zach Collaros back on the football field again, I'll be very surprised. I think his career should be over.
Stegall was reacting to a hit by Saskatchewan's CJ Rivas on Collaros that forced the Winnipeg QB out of the Banjo Bowl early. It was not the worst helmet-to-helmet hit we've ever seen in the CFL, but it was enough to force Collaros out of a game prematurely for the third time this season. Of course, Collaros has a long history of concussions. All of that said, Mike O'Shea thinks Stegall went too far, calling his comments cavalier, and adding that Stegall doesn't understand what's going on with Collaros' health better than the Bombers do. O'Shea added, Marcy, that Stegall's observations only put more stress on Collaros' family and his inner circle. Collaros, by the way, was in street clothes at practice yesterday watching the Bombers ahead of their game Friday night in Hamilton.
Lots of things to follow up on there, and kind of a shame all the way around.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about the Blue Jays. This is a happy story, ended just the way they hoped it would.
Yeah, after getting news early yesterday that all-star shortstop Bo Bichette was headed to the injured list with a sprained knee, Marcy, the last thing they needed was to lose a third game in a row last night. Didn't look good for the Maine. They trailed against the Astros, but Isaiah Kiner-Falefa tied things up in the ninth with a single, and then Tyler Heidemann won it on a fielder's choice an inning later. Kiner-Falefa talked about his contributions.
Walking up to the plate, I just kind of had a feeling where, you know, everything that happened last year, everything that happened this year is all meant to be. It was surreal. I kind of visualized it walking up to the plate. I'm like, I went to Pittsburgh for this hit right here, to show up in front of our fans and be home again. And it was just like, yeah, this is why I signed to Toronto the first time, and to get that opportunity to get that big hit. So happy to be back.
Kiner-Falefa picked up off of waivers from Pittsburgh a month ago, Marcy. Toronto, of course, traded him last season to the Pirates, and it doesn't sound like he's missing Steeltown that much. So after their latest comeback, the Jays keep a 3-game lead atop the AL East.
All right, thanks a lot, Scott.
You betcha.
So with an abbreviated version of our sports, Scott Regehr, who's with us each and every morning. And if you want to read more of Scott's reporting and also more about soccer and Canada's men's team with another impressive showing, you can always check out cbc.ca/sports. Still ahead on our live show from Merchants Corner, as the sun's coming up here over Selkirk Avenue, we're going to hear about internet, how a nonprofit based out of Merchants Corner plans to provide free internet for 1,000 North End households, but they have much bigger plans than that. So we're going to hear about them after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is 12 degrees. Summer is still glowing in Winnipeg. Lots of sunshine and warm temperatures. Sunny today, a high of 28, and the humidex at 31 this afternoon. An advocate for people living in poverty says it's high time police were stationed at the ER in Winnipeg's biggest hospital. The province is paying for 2 city police officers to be stationed around the clock in the emergency room at Health Sciences Centre. Last month, nurses voted to put the hospital on a grey list after a series of violent incidents. Al Weeb is a longtime community advocate for the homeless, and he believes the presence of uniformed police will act as a deterrent.
You're going to feel better about things if there are 2 cops there. Maybe it's long overdue because, you know, we all know HSC is a problem.
In addition to $1.6 million a year for the officers, Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera says the province will also spend $250,000 for 5 weapon detection scanners at HSC's main entrances. Questions are being raised about a plan to limit the locations of homeless encampments in Winnipeg. A motion passed by the city's Community Services Committee would prohibit encampments near schools, daycares, playgrounds, and on medians or traffic islands. James Thompson lives in an encampment on Fort Douglas Park. He is confused about how these new rules would work and worries they'll force people like him to be constantly relocating.
Really tiring. Tearing it down, putting it back up, moving. And then you think it's okay, and then you have to tear it down again. And then you got to replace your stuff and move.
The motion says people who have to leave prohibited areas would be given information about other shelter options. A former downtown bus route may have geothermal and shared thermal energy potential. City of Winnipeg planners want to find out more and have requested approval to do a feasibility study on Graham Avenue. They think areas below the surface could allow existing buildings to be connected to share excess energy. Dan Iskerski is the district planner downtown. He says the idea is part of a broader strategy to reconstruct the street.
We're not sure if geothermal will be something that we pursue. It's really going to be something that would come out of the study itself to understand what are some of the limitations and opportunities, right? In terms of geothermal downtown, I think the hydro building is probably the best known.
The report mentions Manitoba Hydro, True North Sports and Entertainment, and the Southern Chiefs Organization. It also says the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, Women's Health Clinic, and Manitoba Public Insurance have expressed interest in becoming users and suppliers of a district energy system. Well, the Polish government is holding an emergency meeting after it says Russian drones crossed into Polish airspace last night. Poland says it brought down several Russian drones that entered its territory. NATO also deployed aircraft. Brendan Kearney is a retired U.S. colonel and former chief of staff for the U.S. Marines in Europe.
We don't want to anger the Russians, but at the same time, Russia has to be told that they are causing problems in a way that we're not going to let them get away with it. And when I say we, NATO.
This is the first time Poland has taken down suspected Russian drones in its territory. To Nepal. A street sweeper cleaning up debris in Kathmandu. Nepal's health ministry says the number of people killed in this week's anti-corruption protests is now 25. 633 people have been injured. The country's prime minister has resigned, but demonstrations in the streets went into a second day. The country's parliament was torched and has been left in ruins. Soldiers are on the streets, and there is an indefinite curfew in place in Kathmandu. Now, here in Manitoba, the Nepalese community is banding together. Arman Jung moved to Winnipeg from Nepal to go to university. He has since graduated from the U of W and has big hopes for his home country.
I believe the next coming government will be very strong and stable, and they can promise a better future for the upcoming generation.
Zhang says the younger generation has been fed up by political corruption and limited access to university. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you very much, Heather. 7:35 a.m. is the time on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on the app and YouTube. We're posing for pictures with folks here. That's me smiling for a moment of cheese with some of our guests. And we actually could eat cheese, too, because there's food out here. There's fruit and there's pancakes. We're at Merchants Corner. There's a live community breakfast going on for the students and for the community here. It runs till 8:30. We are here to hear more about Merchants Corner. It's an educational nonprofit hub. It also has open community space, and we're hearing about the neighborhood outside these doors. Merchants is at 541 Selkirk Avenue at Andrews, and, of course, you're going to know this place from back in the day. The historic Merchants Hotel. It, of course, got gutted, and this was reimagined and came up in 2018. And so we are hearing in the show this morning more about what's going on inside, but also outside the community as well here in this part of Winnipeg's North End. So we'll get back to some of that programming in a moment. Right now, I need to dip into what's happening in our weather today. So in Winnipeg, we're going to have a hot day, and in fact, across Manitoba, it's going to be pretty warm and clear. Winnipeg sunny, high 28. That stays for tonight. Clear low 14. Tomorrow, more sunshine. And then some rain. A 60% chance of showers in the afternoon. Our late fall flowers and trees will be grateful. There is a risk of a thunderstorm tomorrow afternoon, and then into Friday we are looking for showers. Over in the city of Brandon today, sunny, a high of 29 degrees. In Dauphin today, sunny, 28. Up in Thompson, sunshine, winds 20 to 40, and a high of 22 degrees. Your current conditions this hour, and it is 12 in Winnipeg. Lots of sun, as I mentioned. Big blue sky out here in Selkirk. In Brandon, partly cloudy, 10 10 degrees, and up in Thompson, mostly cloudy and 8 degrees. So significantly warmer than that strange cold start we had a few weeks ago. We'll just call that our false start for 2025. All right, let's go to Abby Adiemi for a quick look at traffic. There's been a couple things going on here.
Yes, heads up on Dogo Road at Tarracon Place. That semi lost a piece of wood, so look out for it. Approach with caution. It might just catch you off guard. Also on Kenniston Boulevard, right in front of Superstore, we have a major bottleneck that's due to that water main break. It's impacting both northbound and westbound traffic at Grant Avenue. Anything you see, let us know. 788-3093.
Well, what I'm seeing right now are a whole bunch of people. Behind me here in the main foyer of Merchants Corner, there are a lot of people that are enjoying breakfast. There's probably about 50 people, but there's still room for more if you want to join us. One of the folks that dropped in works just up the way on Selkirk. The executive director of the Urban Circle Training Center, Haven Stump, has sat down for a bit of a chat. Good morning. What's it like to see all these people out in the neighborhood? This is always a pretty vibrant area, but what's it like this morning?
Well, I think it's a beautiful morning out to begin with, but I think it's really great to have our community come out and celebrate some of the good things that take place in our neighborhood, because we're always highlighted such negative things in our neighborhood, but we always have a lot of good things taking place here as well.
What's the greatest good new thing that is taking place right now out of Urban Circle Training Center? We're learning about this as an educational hub, Merchants, but really the whole row here. Yes. You know, you walk down, you see so many, so many buildings that are open to students and ongoing learning. So what's the latest great thing that you guys are working on?
Well, here on Selkirk Avenue in particular, we become an educational hub. So we have the University of Manitoba, we have Seed Winnipeg, we have the University of Winnipeg, and of course Urban Circle Training Center. And, the newest thing that I believe that Urban Circle in particular has been doing is we've created we've started, actually, not created, because we are in partnership with Red River College Polytech. And what we've done is we are now delivering a 2-year diploma, educational early childhood education diploma program. So that is our newest venue that we're tossing out there to the community to get that skill.
That's so exciting, because obviously we need more of those educators in our system.
Oh, for sure. I think the first dibs is that we need to get those daycares up and running, as well as to have our workers in there as well. Yep. And I do know that our governments are working very hard at improving not only wages, but as well as increasing daycare spaces and so on and so forth. So we're very, very positive about that piece, and just looking forward. And it's a really great program for young people who don't have children or who are having children that want to work Monday to Friday kind of thing. So it's a really effective program for those that want to get into the workforce.
What does the neighborhood need right now? And you can speak to, the strip outside challenges, or what do you see that the neighborhood could need right now that it's not getting?
Well, I live here in the neighborhood as well, actually just down on Selkirk Avenue. So I'm very familiar of what the neighborhood is needing. And I think the most important thing that our neighborhood is needing is there's a couple of things that I believe so is one, of course, there's just so much what is the word I want to use? There's just so much drug use in our neighborhood, and there's no place for our people to go. So they're walking around day and night and day. And so the drug abuse is so extensive, it's now affecting our youth. And it's very sad to see our young people so involved in drugs, and the death that takes place with those drugs, and the devastation for the families, because it's not just the user, it's the whole entire family, and it's the community that suffers as well.
Do you seek, and there's various ways to go about this, right? There's treatment, there's drop-in, there's safe spaces, there's safe consumption sites. There's a number of different things that might help a neighborhood perhaps with that. What do you think might be the right fit for, I know you're just one person, but what do you think might be a good fit for this neighborhood?
I think that
yours?
Right now what we need to have is we need to have a place for them to just go and be safe at. And that doesn't mean drug consumption or anything of the sort, but just a safe place for them to be in, and to offer those resources to them while they're there, possibly even to set up some type of a second stage plan of some sort. Because, because I do know that when people want to get sober, there is a huge lineup. You have to go on a waiting list. It's just not, and when they want to be sober, they want to do it immediate.
Yeah, that's a fact. That access, that
Yes.
timely access in
Correct.
the moment. Yeah,
Correct.
I do want to ask you, because you heard me talking about the story we reported on, last week. I think it was just last week, where you had that issue with the copper on top of your building
Yes.
being stolen, and you're affected by some of the things that are happening. And I think a lot of agencies up and down here, organizations rather, have been affected. What would you like the rest of Winnipeg to know about? Because you started by saying, let's not always be negative.
Yes.
There's realities down here, and yet, what do you want people to understand about Selkirk, about the neighborhood, and about what moving forward, and why you maintain committed here and living here?
Well, I had opportunity to move out of this area, but I decided not to. I believe that our community is truly a community, and I walk down the street, say good morning, hi to people, and it really is truly community. You get a sense of belonging here, and it's unconditionally acceptance. No matter who you are, our community does not shun anybody, and we are always open, welcoming, no matter who you are, into our community, and always trying to help and give that helping hand. So that's so important. When we're hit with the vandalism piece, I know that it stems down to just poverty. We're living in poverty here. And I think we're the forgotten piece of the north end of the city of Winnipeg. We are the forgotten area. But again, I hope that does change, because we are here and we are wanting to make a difference. And we have made a difference in multiple ways, not just only in the Indigenous community, but as well as the immigration community in many areas as well. And our community has changed.
It sure has, yeah.
Yes.
We're going to hear a bit more about that actually after 8 o'clock. We have a tour of Selkirk that's going to continue, and one of the things we're going to get to some places that have changed that reflect that changing population. So thank you so much for popping on the show this morning, Haven.
Sure. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to go back and eat my wonderful breakfast now. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry if it's cold. Haven Stump, Executive Director of the Urban Circle Training Center, which is located here on Selkirk Avenue. I'm Marcy Marcusa. We're out at Merchants Corner. This is part of the educational hub overall on this part of the street in Winnipeg. And we're grateful to be here learning more about the programs. Now, let's talk more about the needs in the area when it comes to internet, which many people say there's a great digital divide that exists when you're talking about different neighborhoods across the country. But here in Winnipeg, this area has a group that's trying to help. My next guests say reliable internet is something everyone should have access to. They have plans to supply as many as 1,000 North End households with free internet, in fact. They're doing it right here at a Merchants Corner. So Joel Templeton is Executive Director of a nonprofit Internet Society Manitoba, of the nonprofit Internet Society Manitoba chapter. Hi, Joel.
Hello, good morning.
Big title to get out there. Courtney Comer is here as well. She's Executive Director of North End Connect. That's a community network in Winnipeg that's hoping to close, as I mentioned, that digital divide. Hi, Courtney.
Hi.
So, Joel, how did this idea to supply free internet to households in the North End even come about?
Well, it came out of the pandemic, actually, from this building. Interestingly, the groups that work here and a lot of the nonprofits, as we all experienced during the pandemic, lost contact with their clients, and the students that they were trying to help couldn't go to school and were all sent home. So we know this from research all around North America, is that urban centers, even though they're really well connected with infrastructure, there are areas in the urban spaces, usually low-income areas like the North End, that don't have enough devices, don't have enough access to digital literacy training, and don't, for a number of reasons, have barriers to connect to the internet.
I remember vividly, you're talking about the pandemic. On CBC, we had a father who had, I think it was 4 kids, but he was on the air sharing, people are talking all about how hard it is to learn online. He said, and in his household, they had one computer they were all sharing and passing around, and he was trying to work. You guys, I know, started by even offering, you had some free computers that you were handing out, trying to help, and now it's about the internet.
Absolutely. We kind of started backwards. It is a community network. That is the goal, to build and support everyone here. But we have a great partnership with Computers for Schools Manitoba. And through them, we were able to get refurbished computers and distribute them in the neighborhood. We're pushing kind of 1,000, I think, at this point since the beginning of the project. That was where we started.
Courtney, how are you doing this physically with the internet? Like, how are you supplying North End households with free internet? Are you literally popping up antennas?
That is the goal, yeah. Right now we have an antenna up on the roof of Merchants Corners here. I don't know, maybe Joel wants to take you up there later if you don't feel like climbing up a ladder. And we have one antenna on the Andrews Street Family Center just down the street over this way. And we're in the process of getting, I think it was like 3 up on the roof of the Ivan Franco Manor over on McGregor. They just finished up some roof construction, so we're just kind of waiting to get up in there and get that going.
So the ultimate goal is how many households would be part of the project?
I want to see the entire North End covered, but for just starter, I think we're aiming for just initial 20, just trying to kind of see like how we can manage it, get that team going, get the help desk kind of put together so that we have people to support everyone on the network. And then once we have that kind of base built up of that foundation, then we can start adding more and more. And I think our goal is just the 1,000 that was mentioned earlier.
To start, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the reaction? Are you down the line enough to have reaction from people who are going to be part of those first, 20?
It is insane seeing how many people are in support of this initiative. Community members, other local partners, organizations, like everyone is coming together to see this kind of come to fruition, and it's kind of really heartwarming because.
Why do you care about it? Because you immediately were like, I want to see the whole North End
whole North
covered.
End.
Yeah.
Once we get the North End, I'm going to go further north to this North Connect.
Yeah.
For me, it's my mom kind of went through a lot of treatment centers here when I was a child, and she worked really hard in the North End community, kind of helped my family get put back together. So I see this as an opportunity for me to give back to the same organizations that helped me in the past.
Passion always somehow comes from that personal, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
So how are you going to manage it, though? Because, do you need to fundraise? What is it actually going to take to make this dream a reality, even more than it has already started? Either of you can answer. I'm not sure who has the answer to that.
That was an important thing when we started this, is that we wanted to make sure that we were adding to the services. There's, as mentioned before, there's amazing, great services here. One of the things that wasn't here was technology. Technology support, internet connectivity, any of those kinds of things, which made those organizations struggle, right? The communications with their clients, things like that. So we are trying to bring in something to, add to those services. And we also didn't want, when it comes to funding, to fish in the same pond as it is, right? We didn't want to be able to, there's only so many funders. So being able to be, because the Internet Society is an international organization, we have access to money that other groups wouldn't have. So trying to bring in new money into the neighborhood and then keep it here. The idea of that community network, developing wealth and keeping that in the neighborhood.
So I know you've applied for some grants. You're trying to access funds that way to keep this moving. I understand also that part of the hiring here to maintain the network, as you mentioned earlier, you would be eyeing up local people, which
Absolutely.
then goes back to training. It's all connected.
Absolutely. We're trying to create the entire ecosystem of the technology hub, everything from the computers coming in all the way until they have to go out. So all the way to e-waste, be able to collect old things and make sure that they don't end up in landfills. Training students. We have a great partnership with R.B. Russell Technical High School. We have a beginning of a relationship with Red River, right? So seeing the entire stream coming through, attracting people in the neighborhood realizing they could go into IT as a career, all of that. We could do this. We could have done this faster and easier if we did this with outside agencies and brought in, outsourced this essentially, but that's not the point. The point is to build that capacity here in the neighborhood.
And also with access points is going to be eyed in the future as well. What does that mean?
So then one of the things Rogers did recently when they acquired Shaw was there's Shaw Open and Rogers Open hotspots all over the place. This summer, unless you were paying attention, they shut them down. They said that the people weren't using them, whatever. It wasn't making them enough money, I guess. So that's, we think, a huge issue. There already wasn't enough places for people to go. When the pandemic came, a lot of places closed. A lot of community centers that had like a little tech hub or something closed and they never reopened. So St. John's Library is one of the places that we do our digital literacy training. So there's very few places to go to, and those hotspots are essential. So we're kind of supplementing them or replacing them, I guess, around the neighborhood. So key places where people, like where we are right now, Merchants Corners, there's one right up there.
I see it. Yeah, just on the wall,
so just so people have free open access to internet where they go.
Just last, Courtney, why is it important? Like, I'm talking about digital divide and, the need for internet. Without it, what do people miss when you don't have that connectivity?
Honestly, a little bit of everything. The way that I kind of see it is this neighborhood has kind of been left on the back burner since I was a child, since my mom was a child, and now it's 60 years later and it's still on the back burner. So now that I'm the adult, I'm in the position to do something about it. I'm going to, or try at least. But this kind of gives people the opportunity to connect with family, go to school, find jobs, connect with resources online that they wouldn't otherwise have access to or even know about, because no one comes and just hands things to anyone. You have to go out and you have to find it yourself, and without the tools to do so, without the knowledge of how to utilize those tools, without the internet to actually access it, how are they going to? They're not. They're just going to be continued to be left behind.
Sincere good luck with your project, you two. Thank you so much for being part of our Merchants Corner broadcast. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Joel Templeman with us, Executive Director of Internet Society Manitoba Chapter, and Courtney Comer, Executive Director of North End Connect.
School's back, and so is the CBC Music Class Challenge, celebrating its 10th anniversary. Powered by Music Counts. Music educators across the country pick a song from our list, create a cover version, and upload a video of your class performing the cover. Amazing prizes are up for grabs, including $30,000 worth of new musical instruments. Check out all the details and register now at cbc.ca/musicclass.
Well, let's get to some news of the day here outside of our Merchants Corner remote. We heard yesterday on the show the city's considering new rules on where homeless encampments can be set up in Winnipeg. An amended motion was supported by a city committee, or approved by rather, that outlines where encampments are permitted and what enforcement measures would look like. We had Councillor Jeff Perwati on yesterday talking about his view of this. Now, if approved, enforcement would start 1 hour before sunrise, 1 hour after sunset. Camps would have to not be allowed near parks, schools, or other rec facilities. That's just part of the rules. And people would have to move during the day. We wanted to hear at least from someone who lives in an encampment about how they are thinking about these new proposals. Shane Popeil lives in an encampment in a park in Point Douglas. He spoke to CBC's Gavin Axelrod about the proposed rules.
The City of Winnipeg, they've approved a motion, and it has to go through council still, to ban encampments within 50 meters of parks. And I'm kind of wondering, what do you think about that?
I agree with it. 50 meters is pretty fair. This eye view, people see stuff, so especially children, they copy and follow everything.
Do you worry about, though, where some folks will go if they can't set up in a park or that kind of location?
If they're smart, they just go with the program and go where they're told to go. That's just what it comes down to.
I know the province is trying to get people into housing. If a worker came and offered you a spot, would you take that with the wraparound support?
Absolutely, yeah. I saw it in the paper recently. Just haven't gotten around to getting in there and getting it, but they don't stop by here as often as they used to. So, but I'm sure they're pretty busy with a lot of the other stuff down by the river, etc.
Do you worry, if the city tightens down on encampments, people are going to have harder times finding places to stay?
It's a tough question. I would think that maybe people don't take enough initiative to start looking for housing in the first place. But then again, the system itself is, it's out of whack. So people get discouraged by the amount of rent given. And then the rents from the caretakers is skyjacked every year. So it's hard to, stay ahead, especially if you're on a fixed budget. It's, it's crazy. Some people pay their bills rather than eat. But there's also programming for that. Lighthouse Mission is a good one, and there's a lot of up and down Main Street. You can't starve.
Are you looking right now for a home?
I currently am not. I just ran into my own recent trouble, so yeah, just one day at a time. But it is definitely a goal for now.
The city says the encampment enforcement will be done during the day because they know sometimes people have to sleep in encampments and tents and stuff at night. What do you kind of make of that?
Yeah, I mean that's their job, right? So if they're working 9 to 5 or whatever, then hopefully that those people are there, and that's just the way it goes. It's really by their schedule if they're trying to help people rather than other people's schedule.
Do you foresee any tensions arising if a bylaw officer came here today and tried to move people? How do you think that would go?
It would kind of be chaotic.
For people who are really up in arms against encampments and shelters and stuff, what would your message to them be?
Give it time. Maybe they can come to a solution where they have an area that's designated for it. a piece of land somewhere that's, you know, off the beaten path of the grid, and you know, where they can just be themselves and be, you know, humans, live.
So you kind of want to see like a sanctioned area for people to set up.
Yeah, that would be pretty interesting. I mean, it'd have to be, you know, strictly securityed, and you know, but yeah, I mean, that would be the overall goal. I mean, some people just don't want to be in shelters. There's too much drama, and the theft is just unbelievable. It's crazy. But
I was going to ask you as well, like, why do you think sometimes people who live in an encampment like this, they don't want to take up those offers for housing?
because they're embarrassed to do drugs. They're ashamed of themselves, dealing with emotional issues and past traumas. And you know, some people just want to be alone or be around people that they're familiar with that have the same goal with them or something in common. And drugs is a social drug. So. But yeah.
Do you think it's intimidating or scary for people to get that kind of help and get those wraparound supports?
Yes, I do. I think a lot are ashamed because they have to relive their traumas, and that's a hard thing to do.
So that was the CBC's Gavin Axelrod talking with Shane Popeil, who lives in an encampment in Point Douglas. Really interesting insights there in that interview. Tomorrow we'll see what the city has to say. They have these proposed rules in front of them for encampments moving forward in our city. Let's go to news headlines. It's 3 minutes to 8 o'clock. Heather joins us again.
Good morning. Well, an advocate for people living in poverty says it is high time police were stationed at the ER in Winnipeg's biggest hospital. The province is paying for 2 city police officers to be stationed round the clock at the emergency room at Health Sciences Centre. Al Weeb, a longtime community advocate for the homeless, believes the presence of uniformed police will act as a deterrent. And Manitoba's Nepalese community is banding together as violent unrest has upended that country's government. We'll hear the latest in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
All right, thank you, Heather. Well, we have a water main break that's been going on for 24 hours. Keniston in front of Superstore. It's affecting a lane northbound at Grant. It's still ongoing there, so it's lots of water. Also, Chris called southbound Archibald to Provencher, backed up all the way past Nairn. Traffic's also backed up from Nairn all the way to Chester, so there's an issue in that area. If you can inform us of more info, 788-3093. It's sunny, it's beautiful. Blue sky over Selkirk Avenue through the windows outside Birchens Corner this morning. It's 12 degrees currently in the city. We're heading for a high of 28. Still ahead on the show this morning, we're going to hear from a resident who lives here at Merchants Corner, a student. It's allowed her to get her bachelor's degree and master's degree while raising 2 kids on her own. Stay tuned for that and more.
Today on Q.
I'm Talia Schlenger in for Tom Power. Susan Aglukach was the first Inuk artist to have a top 10 hit in Canada, but she never set out to be a famous pop musician. She'll share stories about her unconventional path from her new memoir.
Q. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
Teenagers love their energy drinks, and there's a growing number marketed as healthy, but experts say there's too much caffeine in there for young people. Should Canada ban energy drinks for kids under 16 like the UK has done? We'll talk about that coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Israel is receiving international condemnation over yesterday's strike in Qatar. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the country was targeting Hamas leaders when it attacked Doha. The European Commission is now planning on freezing EU support for Israel. President Ursula von der Leyen says she is also seeking sanctions and a partial suspension of trade with Israel. Even U.S. President Donald Trump is saying the strike was not a good idea. The CBC's Willie Lowry is in Washington with more on the U.S. response. And Willie, what are U.S. officials saying?
Well, President Donald Trump not happy with Israel's strike on Hamas inside Qatar, a key U.S. ally in the Middle East.
I'm not thrilled about the whole situation. It's not a good situation.
And Trump said Tuesday night that he would issue a full statement later today. The president, though, not alone in his criticism. Several U.S. leaders, including Senator Bernie Sanders, also irate. Sanders on social media calling for an end to U.S. military aid to Israel. Others, however, a little more supportive of Israel's actions. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham said he spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu shortly after the strike and added he would always be a partner to Israel.
What has the White House said about the U.S. involvement in the strike?
Well, that's the question, and messaging out of the White House, at least so far, suggesting not very much. Trump on social media said his team learned of the strike from the U.S. military. The president also saying he immediately went into action, directing U.S. Special Envoy for the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, to reach out to the Qataris. The Qataris saying by the time the Trump administration made contact, the strike already underway. Trump made clear, though, that this was Israel's strike. And while he said he felt very badly about the location of it, he added that the target, allegedly Hamas leadership, was a worthy goal.
Thank you, Willie.
Thank you.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. Poland says it has shot down Russian drones that entered its airspace overnight. Officials say it happened during a Russian attack on Ukraine. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk is calling the incursion a large-scale provocation.
Mamy do czynienia najprawdopodobniej z prowokacją na dużą skalę.
Tusk says he is in constant contact with NATO's Secretary General, and Poland is invoking Article 4. It will request a formal consultation with the alliance. Since NATO was created in 1949, Article 4 has been invoked only 7 times. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is condemning the attacks.
And just today we have seen a reckless and unprecedented violation of Poland and Europe's airspace by more than 10 Russian Shahid drones. Europe stands in full solidarity with Poland.
Von der Leyen says the EU must put more pressure on Russia to come to the negotiating table, and the EU is working on another package of sanctions against Moscow. CBC News has learned that an Ottawa man is among those killed in the Portugal funicular crash. 42-year-old Aziz Ben Harif was on vacation in Portugal when the streetcar derailed. The CBC's Nathan Fung spoke to some of his friends and neighbors.
We wake up in the morning and we just wonder if it was a nightmare. Or
Serene Hashash is one of Aziz Ben Harif's neighbors in Ottawa. She's known him for 5 years and say they consider each other family.
We're just really devastated. I mean, no words can really describe. We're heartbroken. No words can really describe. And
Ben Harif's friends and family say he and his wife were visiting Portugal from Ottawa. The two were on the funicular streetcar that came off the rails, crashed, and killed 16 people. At least 2 Canadians died, according to Global Affairs Canada, which will not release their identities for privacy reasons. Ben Harif's wife, Hind Igernand, was seriously injured. Ayub Saja is a close family friend. He first met Aziz Ben Harif while at university in Morocco. Both decided to move to Canada and made their homes in Ottawa.
I've known him more, half of my lifetime here in Earth. So it's really very difficult. He was a really simple person. He was the best of us. He was really a very generous person.
Igernand's brother says she is still in a Lisbon hospital being treated for her injuries. Nathan Fung, CBC News, Ottawa.
Liberal MPs are meeting in Edmonton today. The caucus retreat is meant to set the stage for next week's return to Parliament. Prime Minister Mark Carney will be looking across the floor at Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre for the first time in the House of Commons. Olivia Stefanovic reports.
Prime Minister Mark Carney arriving in Edmonton to questions about his plan for the fall sitting of Parliament and a meeting he has scheduled later today with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith.
I look forward to seeing you, Premier. Thank you.
The one-on-one happening on the eve of Carney's first major projects announcement, an attempt to shore up the Canadian economy as it slows during the trade war with the U.S.
This is not business as usual. This is like 1945 when Canada came out of the war and had to reinvent itself. Why? Because our biggest, our neighbor, biggest trading partner, ally is turning its back on Canada.
Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne is tasked with tabling and selling Carney's first budget in October, one focused on economic growth and also on austerity measures.
What you need to do, investment in our future, and at the same time be very rigorous when it comes to our expenses.
Some Liberals say they don't want to see green initiatives sacrificed as the government looks for areas to cut. Julie Derowitz represents a riding in downtown Toronto.
Do not underestimate our commitment to our climate targets.
Last week, Carney announced the delay of the electric vehicle sales mandate for at least a year. Today, Alberta's premier will ask him to go even further to protect her province's oil and gas sector. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Edmonton.
A court in BC is expected to decide whether a man charged in the killing of 11 people at a Vancouver festival is fit to stand trial. He's accused of driving his vehicle into a crowd during a Filipino heritage celebration in April. After his arrest, it was revealed the man was under the care of a mental health team. Georgie Smythe has the story.
Defence lawyers and Crown Counsel have been arguing in court for months on whether the man accused of killing 11 people at a Vancouver street festival in April is fit to stand trial. Kaiji Adam Lowe faces 11 counts of second-degree murder after he allegedly drove his SUV into a crowd at a Lapu-Lapu Day event. We're expecting a decision on whether he is fit to stand trial and if his broader prosecution will be able to proceed today. Criminal lawyers like Rebecca McConkie, who was also the first vice president of the Trial Lawyers Association of BC, say the public should think about the fitness to stand trial process as a way to make sure defendants can understand the nature and consequences of court proceedings.
It's meant to ensure that accused people who have a mental disorder are not going to trial without being able to meaningfully participate. So fitness to stand trial is about the accused mental capacity now, not their mental capacity or mental state at the time of the offence.
The details of these hearings are covered by a publication ban, which limits what media can share about what's happening in court. That ban is currently being challenged by a group of media outlets, including the CBC, who argue the ban is too broad. We're expecting a decision on whether that publication ban might be loosened today as well. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
The Canadian Medical Association says science is under attack. It says misinformation about health is being normalized. The organization says it is speaking out to counter the damage in advanced scientific research. Alison Northcott explains.
Misinformation and disinformation with respect to healthcare is increasing.
Dr. Margot Burnell, president of the Canadian Medical Association, says doctors are facing misinformation in their offices every day. She points to findings from a recent survey of more than 3,000 Canadians.
A third of people are seeking their medical advice from online sources and delaying or postponing seeking professional treatment.
In a statement published Wednesday, Burnell, along with the heads of several provincial and territorial medical associations and other experts, say science is under attack in Canada and around the world. They cite examples like misinformation around vaccines. Along with education, the Canadian Medical Association says better access to primary care would help, so people can ask doctors about their health instead of relying on the internet. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, go to cbcnews.ca. And if you like the World Report podcast, please follow us and tell a friend. It helps spread the word. I'm Marcia Young.
I'm getting ready. I'm not going to be cooking anything right away. Just getting the kitchen all prepped up and ready for the year. Dishes, everything's got to be done, ready to go. So we're doing anywhere between 60 to 100 meals a day. And that's providing a snack beforehand as well. So every day's new here. We don't know what we're going to get or what trials and tribulations will be coming up, but we come every day. We're here, and I love it. It's awesome. Good morning, everybody. My name is Carl Lavasser. I work in the kitchen. I'm the site chef. You're listening to Information Radio here on the CBC, live from Merchants Corner on Selkirk Avenue. And let's get cooking.
Carl has been cooking all morning long. There's been probably 100 people in and out of here at Merchants Corner for the community breakfast. We're so excited to be in the center of it here in the front foyer at 541 Selkirk at Andrew Street in this beautiful part of the North End. We are learning about things that are happening here at Merchants Corner. It's many things to many people, this place. For some, it's a school, a gathering place, a resource center, a place to eat. Coming up, though, we're going to meet a graduate student and a single mom who has called it home for years, and we're going to find out more about her studies here and what it's meant to her life. Also, the head of the Community Education Development Association, or CEDA, that also works out of Merchants Corner, says he dreams of a future when this area and Selkirk Avenue will actually be connected to Winnipeg's downtown. We're going to hear why that's important as our tour of the street and the wider neighborhood continues. This is CBC in your community on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at the show. Corey Funk on site with me here. Let's go back, though, to our team at Portage Avenue, starting with Heather Wells, who has headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, questions are being raised about a plan to limit locations of homeless encampments in Winnipeg. James Thompson lives in an encampment in Fort Douglas Park. He worries the new rules will force people like him to be constantly relocating. A former downtown bus route may have geothermal and shared thermal energy potential. City of Winnipeg planners want to find out more and have requested approval to do a feasibility study on Graham Avenue. They think areas below the surface could allow existing buildings to be connected to share excess energy. I'll be back with more on those stories and others in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
In the forecast for your Wednesday, September the 10th, school day number 1, in case you're counting. It's going to be nice. Sunny and hot in Winnipeg, a high of 28 degrees before the sun goes down. And then tomorrow afternoon, maybe some showers. Friday, some showers. But today, just some sunshine, a big blue sky out there. 13 right now in the city of Winnipeg. In Brandon, it's mainly sunny and 11. And I just updated, Thompson is partly cloudy and 9 degrees. Abby, how's the commute going? It's been a bit pesky today, huh?
Yes, Marcy, something just came in here. Gary and Graham, lights are flashing red in all directions. Treat that as an always stop before you proceed into that intersection. Archibald Street southbound to Provincial and northbound from Niren, it's really backed up. This is due to those various utility and maintenance work happening in that part of the city. Also, Dougal Terracon Place, that piece of wood, we don't know if it's being taken off the road yet, so approach with caution. And then Kenniston near supposed to down to one lane, northbound, westbound. This is due to that water main break since yesterday. In other parts of the city, we're talking about Princess southbound, Abenoja Mikana Ram, Pemina Highway, ongoing closures and electrical work happening in those areas. So you see anything? Let me know. 788-3093. Oops.
Live radio. No worries, Abby Adiyemi doing 3 jobs back at 541 Portage, so we can be out here at 541 Selkirk, as it happens, at Andrew Street at Merchants Corner. Well, as I mentioned, this place is many things to many people. To Chelsea Abanatime, it is home. She's lived here for the past 6 years while she's been pursuing her bachelor's and now a master's degree in Indigenous development. There are 17 affordable housing units here at Merchants Corner North in the building. So above us, we're in the main foyer, and then above here, there's different apartments. And then there's also 13 more spaces for students in the south building because Merchants owns 2 different spaces. For Shauna McKinnon, this is a workplace. Her office is just a stone's throw away from here. She's professor and chair of the Department of Urban and Inner City Studies at the University of Winnipeg, which is heavily, of course, has a presence at Merchants Corner. So hi, Shauna. Nice to see you.
Hi, nice to see you.
And really nice to meet you, Chelsea.
Nice to meet you as well. It's great to join you here.
So when you first started studying here at Merchants Corner, like what was your life like? How old were your kids, and what were your hopes for your education? What was it like?
Well, I think I have deep roots in the community, also with the University of Winnipeg and its campus. It was formerly housed in the basement, just underneath Urban Circle, I believe it is. Yeah, under McCusain. Yeah, under McCusain. And so we did transition into this building when it opened back in 2017, or was it 2018? 2018.
So you were really on the ground floor.
Yeah.
Because 2018 is the opening year. You were already up the way, taking some courses.
Yes.
Okay.
And I graduated from the University of Winnipeg with an Urban and Inner Cities degree and human rights as well. And I moved here in 2019, just a year after it opened up, with my son at the time. I just had my son at the time, and I think part of that was I was having some housing insecurity, facing some housing insecurity. I was a young mom, teenage mom at 19, and renting in the private market, rent would decrease, and so I was not feeling quite secure, and so I was looking for affordable housing options. And so this development arose, and I applied and I got accepted. And yeah, it was conveniently located because my campus is right across the back alley, so I've been able to leave my house 5 minutes before class and just get to class. So yeah, I've been studying here, living, studying, and working within the inner city, and recently the North End for like the last 8 years, but entirely like my whole life I've lived in the inner city. So
you talked about what it was like before, struggling with some housing insecurity. When you moved here, presumably you had some more stability then?
Yes, definitely. I would say that this housing provided the stability that I needed and enabled me to continue pursuing my education, and yeah, it's been good.
Why is that important when you're trying to focus on your studies? And then, as you said, you're a young mom, a single mom at the time. I think you said you're a teenager.
Yes.
I can't imagine how tough that was, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it has been quite tough, and this is my lived reality. I've faced many adversity, like many of the residents also in the North End community, the wider community. Housing is so important, and it's so fundamental, because if you don't have that housing security, then you can't really move on to pursue your goals and your aspirations. So when the housing was secured for me, it was just one less burden for me, and I could literally focus entirely on my studies and, being present as much as I can, balancing everything.
And boy, did you focus, because now, you're graduating with all of these degrees, as I mentioned. What do you hope to do with your studies? What do you want to do next?
Well, ultimately, I did gain some inspiration and strength from Shauna McKinnon. She's been really inspirational in my undergrad studies and has given me many opportunities. So I just want to be also in a position that I can give opportunities for our youth, or mothers and Indigenous women in the community, and ultimately serve and give back to my Indigenous community here. And
there's a lot of thinking about others in this neighborhood.
Yes, definitely giving back.
What's your plan? Because now you're about to have a big change. You will be moving out of Merchants Corner. Do you know where your plan is to live yet? Or is that still kind of in progress?
Definitely moving. I did apply for a co-op housing, so it's just like kind of transitioning throughout the housing continuum kind of thing. And, ultimately the goal is to own a home one day, and working towards that and making strides toward that as well. That's pretty much for the housing aspect, but I guess education-wise and career-wise, I don't know, maybe a PhD, explore a PhD, but right now I'm rooted in Winnipeg, so I want to give back to my community.
Love that. I just want to ask you a couple quick questions, Shauna, before we wrap here, because you've been sitting here listening to Chelsea's story. This is, of course, the whole point of Merchants Corner. How much do you want to grow this experience? What are the next plans for Merchants Corner to be successful in the future and to be even further connected to the community? And do you see yourself being part of that housing insecurity piece in a bigger way?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I don't need to add anything to Chelsea has said it all. That's what we're here for, to provide those opportunities. But housing is sort of a foundation that people require. And as you know, I've been a strong advocate for social housing, and that's what we've built here. So we want to do more of that. I think we have a continuum, as you've learned today, of education opportunities in this neighborhood. And we want to continue to build on that. When the elders actually first envisioned this space as being an education space in the neighborhood, we are already on a path in this neighborhood since 2000 of building an education focus in the neighborhood, and the provincial government at the time invested heavily in this space. So, we're hoping that vision for this neighborhood continues, and so we really do need all levels of government to see this as part of the vision, providing education, housing, work opportunities, all of the things that we provide together in this community, and we need to continue to resource it so that we we can build on it.
I sure love the full circle moment here as well, where you were looking at Shauna as your mentor, as you said, and really important to you, and then you're going to pass that on, as you said. In your life. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me in your neighborhood. This is CBC Broadcasting live from Merchants Corner. Shauna McKinnon's professor and chair of the Department of Urban and Inner City Studies at the U of W, and they have, of course, their offices here at the Merchants. Chelsea Amanatine, about to graduate with her master's in Indigenous Development from the U of W, and she has lived here at Merchants Corner for the past 6 years.
The night lights up with art in the Exchange, and After Dark will be there. Winnipeg, this is Odario Williams, and I will be spinning tunes for a special recording of After Dark, just outside of Art Space for Nuit Blanche, September 27th. Art, music, dance, all night. Nuit Blanche, proudly sponsored by CBC. Just visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for details.
Well, as I continue to mention, at 8:21 a.m. on CBC, we're live in the community today on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on that app and YouTube where you might be watching us. You can see people now starting to thin out and get into their days. There's been a community breakfast here at Merchants Corner at 541 Selkirk that's been going on. Our focus has been, of course, on this place and also on the wider neighborhood outside these windows. Selkirk Avenue is right outside, of course. It's one of the oldest streets in the city. It is dotted with social enterprises, educational institutions, and some long-time businesses like the pharmacy across the street. But as we heard in the last hour, there are not enough community gathering cafes in this neighborhood. Food insecurity is still an issue. Housing is an issue. In part 2 of our walk down the Selkirk Strip, what is missing to propel this area into greater prosperity for residents who live here? And how has the population changed? I went out last Friday with Jordan Bighorn, the executive director of CETA, the Community Education Development Association. We're at Salter and Selkirk now, and we stopped here because you're going to know where we are. The Robbins sign here. Now, this is actually representative of something that's changed in the neighborhood population. This isn't a Robbins anymore, Jordan.
Nope, it's a Middle Eastern shop serving donair, different cultural foods, and much like the Lord Selkirk Park developments, which a lot of Indigenous families would live here for decades, and now a lot of newcomer families have moved in. As Mount Carmel Clinic serves a kind of a settlement hub and zone. And so it just shows the growing diversity of our community, but it's predominantly Indigenous families that now get to enjoy donair and shawarma, as such, are right in their local neighborhood.
When it comes to actual businesses down here, they come and go, obviously, but would you say that the future of Selkirk Avenue is still going to rely on a lot of businesses still being down here? We talked about food at the beginning, but what about other types of businesses that you would either like to see come up here, or whether you think that you're doing okay with what you have?
Well, in a lot of community meetings, when they talk about different insecurities and kind of whether they're kind of deserts, like financial deserts, food deserts, of not having like a larger grocery store or financial institution other than Median Credit Union, which has always been here since the 70s. They've held strong. That there could be other retail offices here, clothing and stores, etc. But what it has left space for are, as we'll see, like the Upshop, social enterprise, community-driven efforts that allow community members themselves to create business, to have some income, entrepreneurship, but also the relationships that it's kind of buy local in a hyper sense, like really buy local.
The Upshop has been here for, it's one of the longest, I think, probably social enterprises it's been on Selkirk.
Yeah, sometime.
Let's head that way, that's where it is. So we just passed the North End Women's Center, been down here for like 40 years. Their social enterprise is the Upshop. It's now in its 25th year or so. I want to ask you about social enterprises, about services for people that help people. Some people, and you know the criticism of this, would say, is there a threshold where it's administering poverty? What's your response to that?
Yeah, that's a great point. And as I recall from the comment from the late Grand Chief Kathy Merrick, who would have stated in that tough position that the services that are needed to be provided for families and community right now with the funds from government or otherwise are necessary today. There's immediate need, but when it's just drip feeding, when it's not increased in a way that it's effectively a decrease each year, that you're just getting by, you're just not on the verge of starving. So it's in fact malnutrition. And I think, the argument or the criticism that being over-programmed, over-social serviced, is perhaps a reflection on communities that take that for granted. That by virtue of having all those things already present, you're not even thinking that the safe, warm home, the safe neighborhood, the voice and the wherewithal to say we don't want certain things in our neighborhood, and that's responded to almost immediately. That's not the case here. And so it's the over-programming is just that we want to be able to say we take for granted community safety, community opportunity, places to go and meet and visit and have coffee without risk of being, taken aside by police or otherwise for any other reason. And that's different in other neighborhoods.
Just in my last question then, obviously we start talking education now. We're so much deeper into what community means. Geographically, what's the future of Selkirk Avenue? We have passed up some boarded areas as well and such. Do you see more educational spaces? Do you see more businesses? What do you think the future will hold down here, like practically?
If I were to give a bit of a time capsule thought, it would just be simply that we see the development along Portage Avenue. Selkirk used to be Portage, was Portage. Selkirk and Main there was Portage and Main at one point. Merchants Corner might have been the Radisson or the Fort Garry Hotel at one point. And I think if we do see the rail yards pulled out and the connection of the two streets brought together, not unlike the two-row wampum belt that we know that represents the relationship of Canada and First Peoples, like Selkirk and Portage could be this avenue of the learning, the social enterprise, the community development that happens here is desperately needed in a downtown environment. We see it perhaps with the Jets Stanley Cup run with the whiteout parties. That community is alive and well for a few days. This is where it happens all year on a continual basis.
We've certainly heard a lot of that community connection this morning. That was my conversation with Jordan Bighorn, Executive Director of CETA. They have their offices here at Merchants Corner. The videographer, by the way, on that story, if you're watching on YouTube, is Jason Empson. Well, before we get to the news, we can just slide in a few minutes of a band that actually was formed right here in Winnipeg's North End, JD and the Sunshine Band. It's a collaboration between musician JD Ormond and pretty much anyone who decides to drop into Sunshine House over on Sherbrooke and Logan. Often, those folks are people who are living on the street. They come in, they play music. Sometimes it leads to a new song like this one. This is JD and the Sunshine Band and Saturday Night.
I've got a girl who is crazy about me, and I cannot blame her for that. But when she said she'd go crazy without me, I try to break from her grasp. On a Saturday night, I head up the street to meet my little buddy. His name's Jim, but we call him Jack. We have a few sips from his flask of Bacardi and head out over the tracks into the night. We head up to Main Street to see what's happening. Some good, some bad, half and half. No matter what kind of joke someone's cracking, somebody somewhere will laugh. And that's what I like.
I love all the local references there, right? Heading up to Main Street, no matter, someone somewhere will laugh. Local music. JD and the Sunshine Band. The tune's called Saturday Night. If you want to drop by Sunshine House on Sherbrooke and Logan, often they make music there together. And this one was a collaboration with folks that popped in to join. Love that. Roots in the North End. That's where we are this morning. We're right on Selkirk Avenue, 541 at Merchants Corner. Thank you so much for being part of our special community broadcast. We're heading into the news. Just a couple traffic notes. Lights flashing red at Gary and Graham. Archibald to Provencher southbound is packed up. Dugald to Terracon. There could be debris in the roadway. And Kenaston at Superstore, a huge water main break continues. Right now, your CBC Winnipeg News at 8:30.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. What a gorgeous morning. It's sunny, 13 degrees right now, and we'll be continuing that summer feeling with a high this afternoon of 28, a humidex of 31. An advocate for people living in poverty says he supports the introduction of police in Winnipeg's biggest hospital. The province says it will pay for 2 city police officers to be stationed around the clock in the emergency room at the Health Sciences Centre. Nurses at that hospital last month voted to put it on a grey list. That's a list cautioning nurses about working there because of a series of violent incidents. Al Weeb is a longtime community advocate for the homeless. He says as long as the officers are trained to perform their jobs with empathy, the move is long overdue.
Safety is number one, and it should be, and for everyone, staff as well as other patients. So I think just the mere presence is a deterrent.
In addition to $1.6 million a year for the officers, Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera says the province will also spend $250,000 for 5 weapon detection scanners at the HSC's main entrances. Questions are being raised this morning about a plan to limit locations of homeless encampments in Winnipeg. A motion passed by the city's Community Services Committee would prohibit encampments near schools, daycares, playgrounds, and on medians or traffic islands. James Thompson lives in an encampment in Fort Douglas Park. He's confused about how these new rules would work and worries they'll force people like him to be constantly relocating.
Really tiring. Tearing it down, putting it back up, moving. And then you think it's okay, and then you have to tear it down again. And then you got to replace your stuff and move.
The motion says people who have to leave prohibited areas would be given information about other shelter options. City of Winnipeg planners want to know if a district thermal energy system could work on Graham Avenue. The idea is part of a broader strategy to reimagine the street after city buses were rerouted to other roads. If Graham Avenue is ever reconstructed, planners say it would be a good time to put in geothermal energy, or a system that lets existing buildings share excess energy. District planner Dan Iskerski says first they need to know if it would work.
Buildings themselves might have excess heat or cooling that they can put into the system, and then people who are connected to it could benefit from that and share in that to reduce their overall costs and just essentially assist our goals in energy transition.
The department is seeking approval to do a feasibility study. Right now, parts of Graham Avenue are a pedestrian corridor. Iskerski says there are no plans to reopen closed portions to vehicle traffic. Manitoba's Nepalese community is banding together as violent unrest has upended that country's government. Nepal's prime minister has resigned after 25 people were killed in demonstrations against corruption and a now scrapped social media ban. Yesterday, protesters stormed the nation's parliament building and set it on fire. In Winnipeg, people rallied outside the Manitoba Legislative Building on Monday. One of the organizers of that rally, Biplav Subudai, moved to Winnipeg 4 years ago and says it was important to rally in this city as well.
This brought some kind of peace. People got to say their piece. They got to pay their respects, dues. These kids, these teenagers, they're martyrs, right? We have to do something. We have to show our respects.
Zubaidi says he hopes the movement by young Nepalese at home will end corruption in that country. You can find the latest news updated throughout your day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
All right, so a sunny day ahead for Winnipeg, a high of 28. A couple issues in traffic. I mentioned them just before the news. Water main break, Keniston Superstore, Archibald, Provencher still could be backed up. Hopefully get to where you are needing to go. I'm Marcy Marcusa. I just want to spend some time here saying thank you to everybody who worked on our special Merchants Corner broadcast today in our show. In our news department, Heather Wells, Joni Nicolo, Megan Ketchison. Here at Merchants Corner, Shauna McKinnon, Frank Zhao, Carl Levasseur, Jordan Bighorn, as well as Jonah. Corey's helping me with the last name.
Jonah Pierce.
Thank you. Jonah Pierce here. So everyone's so welcoming to us. Also to all of our guests and those of you who showed up in this North End neighborhood this morning on Selkirk to join us and to share your stories. We're just really grateful to hear about your care for this neighborhood and also about your hopes moving forward. And to our CBC team that contributed to the show, Gavin Axelrod, Jason Empson, Leif Larson, and Nellie Gonzalez, our producers, as well the remote production with Brad Lillies, Abby Adeyemi, and Corey Funk. When we're out in community, these guys are up at like 3 in the morning and at work at like 3:30 where I saw them. And I just want to note that on the air because everyone hears me, but you don't hear our team. And this is a team effort from CBC. So big thanks to everyone. We are here for you. So you want us in your community? You can email us, radio893@cbc.ca. Maybe we'll come visit you next. In the meantime, this has been CBC's Information Radio live from Selkirk Avenue in Winnipeg's bright, beautiful, historic North End. Take care. Be well, Manitoba. Thank you so much for listening to our edition of CBC in your community and in our city. And we hope you join us again tomorrow for another edition of Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. And don't go anywhere because The Current with Matt Galloway is coming up next. Have a great day.